Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. There's so few people, we might as well treat this like we're in our living room. Good evening, everybody. Hey, hi, Willa, how you doing? Barbara, how are you? I'm good. All right. That means, that very informal way, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Fatima. We're treating this like it's our living room. So you just walked in, so I just thought I'd say good evening. We have there's a birthday party that we'd like to get to. Some of us would like to get to. The community would like to get to. When was your birthday?
Oh, my birthday passes 8 of us, 10 of us.
10 of us. Okay, but you're the only birthday person in here today. So we are going to do our act of reverence and our Pledge of Allegiance, but let's sing happy birthday to Commissioner Funches. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. We'll do it one more time. Happy birthday. Come on, Natalie. Happy birthday. Sing it now, Natalie. Happy birthday. Watch this. Ooh, yeah, nah. All right, enough of that. So, we like to have a young person do our Pledge of Allegiance. Who would probably be the youngest person in here? Because there ain't no really young people in here. Cecilia, you're one of the younger people in here. Why don't you do our Pledge of Allegiance since you're one of our newest members, so that makes you young. Yes, that's right.
Please stand.
She got that principal thing going on now. Oh, okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Golden. I appreciate that. All right. Next item on our agenda is acceptance of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes reflected on the agenda?
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Funches, seconded by Vice President Powell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have one speaker speaking on an agenda item. Just give me a second to find that green sheet that I know Dr. Lee put in there. And that speaker is, drum roll, Shafira Rozier. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Commissioner Funches tries to help me out sometimes in correct pronunciation. I guess Ms. Rozier is not here. All right, that ends our speakers list.
I did want to ask that we allow the Bilingual Council and PAC to present first before the superintendent's reports, and I ask that we move forward in that order. I just want to throw that out there, because we always make our parents wait to do their presentations.
Well, I would appreciate it if you maybe just told me in advance.
I'm sorry, you wasn't here.
I would keep this like it's our living room.
He wasn't here, guys. I'll try to look for him.
Well, you can always talk to me, but we're in our living room, so I'm going to talk like we're in our living room. Doing it now puts me under some pressure. Or if he doesn't do it, he's like the bad guy. So just, if anybody has a suggestion like that, just do it offline, talk to me. That makes total sense.
Let me just say, Mr. President,
Yes,
if you want to continue to do it this way, then you can continue to do it this way. Next time we can do it
That's right.
the other way. But yeah, it does throw all of us off, and when it just catches us off guard. So I would suggest that you do it the way you want to do it, and if that's something that the board decides to do in the next meeting, let's move forward that way.
And I would add that we're trying to work on a policy of no surprises at the dais.
Now, don't you all get too disturbed about this honest conversation. That's how families are. People keep it real. And Beatrice, you all right with that, with us talking about it?
Yes, but it was already suggested before, and so I just want to remind you it was suggested, and you weren't here when I was looking for you, so I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, but I don't recall it being suggested before, and I apologize if I missed that. I don't think anybody else. I'm not sure if anybody else heard it before.
I haven't heard it before.
But here's the thing. It's a good suggestion.
I'll pull up the video, Van.
Well, no, that's not necessary.
It was on the record. It was a board business.
We don't have videos in our living room, right? We don't need that. I trust you. If you said you brought it up, you brought it up, but it's a matter of time. So I tell you what. Don't mumble in the living room. You don't need to mumble. Speak your mind.
I said we're wasting time having this conversation right now, Van. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, sometimes at the dinner table, people get upset.
Okay.
And I can send a note. I tell you what we're going to do is we're going to proceed with superintendent's reports, and then I think that's a good idea. The next meeting, I'll change the agenda so that we consider those reports from bilingual and from our student report. Is that fair?
Yeah.
That's good.
And
So,
let me just ask this
yes, ma'am.
question. Is there an agenda? Does it need a bylaws change? Is it listed
No.
in the bylaws about the order of,
Is it?
Yeah. So that requires a bylaws change.
So there you go. So I don't know if it was brought up last time, whether somebody mentioned that to you, but Commissioner Elliott indicates that it requires, and I trust her too, that it requires a bylaw change. So we'll go to, would that be policy? Seems kind of cumbersome. It's a good idea, but we got to follow our rules.
Let's find out. Let's just find out what it is.
Dr. Lee, could you make sure you attend to that and give us some correct information? It may not require to go to policy. I think we could vote as a board to change our bylaws. I think that's all right. So we'll get to that because it's a good idea. All right, superintendent's report. Can we hear from Dr. Nelms first?
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners and community. Here to present an update in response to Commissioner LeBron's request for us to explain a little bit more about special education at East and some of the trends over the past couple years. And I want to just thank LeBron for really pushing us to have a data-driven conversation because it helped my team at East think a little bit more closely about the work we're doing and the students that we serve. So, and I'll talk about that throughout this presentation. I just want to also say that there's a lot of data here. I presented it in multiple ways because I just want to make sure the board had their own, how they process information differently. Some like bars, some like numbers, some like percents. So I gave a little bit of everything just so you could have the full perspective.
Did you give what I wanted?
What did you?
I'm just messing with the superintendent tonight.
I would like to know the answer to
I have
that.
no questions tonight.
Me too. I'm sitting there going,
I have no questions tonight.
We'll talk offline. We'll talk offline. I'm blushing. All right, so here we go. So this is a 6-year data enrollment. Just the dates I want you to kind of keep in mind through all this data is from 2015-16 school year to the present is when U of R was at East, and then the years prior, 2013-14 and 14-15. Most of the charts have that date range are the years prior to the EPO, just to kind of give perspective on how things have changed. I've also included in your packet a summary that was prepared by Dr. Fessenstein and his staff. That's on a peek of my sheet. It's EPO, Special Education Services, and historical data. This will be helpful too to give some more context. I'm not going to go over that tonight with the board, but some of the highlights there is what I referred to last month, is that in 2014-15, we worked closely with the board, and the district at that time, about the special ed programs and services that will be provided at East. By mid-May of that year, the decision was made to keep the students who are self-contained at East, who had been there up through 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, keep all those kids, but to start to phase in the fully integrated model starting in 7th grade and up. And so you'll see that we maintained outside of what we agreed to do when we first got there, knowing that by year 4 we would have a fully integrated model. That meant for some kids who are 12-on-1 self-contained, for most kids who are 12-on-1 self-contained, we simply met with the parents, amended their IEP, and gave them a more integrated model. We met with the district several times, the state came in several times, approved the model under innovation grant or innovation model, because they saw that we were giving the kids almost 3 times as much service in this model than we would if they were in self-contained settings. And this model would give them access to content teachers, not just teachers who are highly qualified. So it was a model that actually gave them many more services than they would have had if they were in a self-contained setting with teachers who may not have been content-specific certified in the area, yet they would have been highly qualified. Highly qualified means that you've been a special ed teacher long enough to know the content. It doesn't mean that you're certified in the content. So now those teachers are getting, they're getting instruction from content-specific teachers. So it's just, so this gives you more information about that transition. The issue that was brought up, that continues to be brought up, is although the decision was made to have those kids move at the end of May, at the time the district was going through some transitions, and the emails, I can share those with you as well, the kids weren't actually placed until the second week of September, and many of them were placed at Edison Tech, and I think at the time, the narrative was that we moved kids to Edison Tech. In fact, placement never placed the kids until the second week of September, and Edison Tech had the space. So that's where that narrative around us dumping kids or moving kids came. It was based on when the kids were placed and how they were placed, and that's nothing that we controlled at the time. And again, this was back in 2015-16. This is not, it's not representative of the current administration, but I just want to know that's why I was so adamant about that narrative last time.
If I can just ask.
Yep.
So the placement office is working far more efficiently and effectively?
I will say that, yes, I would say that they have been much more collaborative in the last couple of years.
Are you finding that the students that are placed at East are the students that want to be there based on the programs that you offer at the school?
Yep,
Okay.
yes, yep. And I'm going to walk through the numbers of kids that we have. I'm going to walk through the percents, and then I'm going to give a district perspective too, so that can also be shared. And this was shared with district staff as well. So we're working closely on trying to make sense of all this data. So the first slide is simply the top bar is the total enrollment. When the EPO began, it was projected we would have 1,200 kids at our school by the end of its third year. If we had a full class of 166 graders, we would be at 1,200. But remember, we're still working on the feeder pattern, which would be a presentation later today, with School 33 and other elementary schools, so that we'd have 1,200 would be the number. So we're right where we should be numerically with our students. The number of kids on the bottom, you'll see the yellow line represents students with disabilities, and you'll see that the purplish color line or gray line are the students who are ELL, or English language learners, kids who qualify for services to become proficient in ELA. What's also important to note here is this may not, and most likely does not, include kids who are bilingual, who score just high enough to not receive ELL services, but some, and at East, many struggle to meet proficiency. So you have special ed, you have ELL, you have a bilingual population at both East and Monroe that are large. Many of those kids also require additional services to be proficient in English, even if they're proficient in their native language. So this is another subgroup of kids that we have to also watch as well. The next slide is a different illustration of the exact same thing. The yellow boxes are the numbers prior to the EPO. The numbers below are the current numbers. And you'll see a total enrollment of students, again, getting to close to 1,200 kids by design, the number of students with disabilities, the number of kids enrolled, and then we added the numbers who are special ed and ELL, the combined number. And that number is important, and I'll explain why it's important when we get to the graduation rate slides. The same slide I just showed you is now in percentages for the next slide. So you'll see that the total percentage of kids at East since we began in 2015-16 at 34.5% is about 30% now. So that number hasn't drastically changed between the combined numbers. Why? So for graduation rates, the same numbers exist. So you see that our special education students, that's the third column all the way down, going into 2017-18 are graduating at around 35%, ELL at 17%, and then the combined rate would be 26%. I know special education is a topic that we often discuss. It's our ELL population historically at East that has not performed well before graduation, and we have a large number of ELL students as well. Again, not including our bilingual students who also have not performed well at East historically. But all of these categories are showing an uptick in their graduation rates as well.
Sean, can I just add, though, that the ELL number is reflective of the entire district?
Yep.
So they're not doing well in any school in the district. I just want to throw that on the record. Thank you.
I'm not debating that. I'm just giving the data, and I think the questions we have around that, I think will be great district-wide, because I think it is a district-wide discussion. And I think you'll see that especially when we get to the combined rates within high schools throughout the city, as well as I think a benefit of this is how you'll see how closely 33 and East are with the combined number in a sec. So this is the same slide. This is just the number of kids. So 6 of 44. If you look at the 2013-14, 9 of 56, that's 9 kids of 56 graduated that year who were labeled special ed. That's how you read that chart. Same chart as one before, just numbers. And then this is the same chart, we're just looking at the bar graph and trends. Again, I just want to give you a little bit of everything. All right, so this is where it gets, I think where the narrative helps from a district-wide perspective. The chart here are all the secondary schools on the left. I did include School 33, because it's a school that we've also talked about, and we're going to be a presentation this evening. The yellow line is where East is. The blue line is 33. And the far right, 2017-18, are the numbers that are, listed smallest to greatest, or least to most, if you will, on the far right. So you get an idea of what special ed looks like across the district. You get an idea of what our ELL population looks like across the district. Remember, ELL is the population of kids who are graduating at 17% at East. And of course, I don't know that the district-wide average is there for their graduation rates, but I'm going to assume that it's not where we want it to be. And then this is the combined rate for students who are student disabilities and ELLs combined for each of the schools. What I found interesting in this chart is that 33 and East are almost identical, which hopefully reinforces the idea of a pipeline. The reason why our special ed rates are lower in lower school is because we don't have choice who applies. So if a kid's in a K-8 program, they're likely not to leave to come to East in 6th grade. They may apply in 9th grade, but in 9th grade, there are very limited seats because the 8th graders move to 9th. So we're seeing a decline in the number of kids who are enrolled because we don't handpick them. They have to apply to the school. So we are looking to work with placement, and if we had a chance to work with 33 or other elementary schools, we can kind of create a system where that number will always be around 1/3 of students who are special ed and ELL combined. We know that number will vary, but somewhere in that range. We do not want to be in a situation where we have very low numbers, and then you see the entire district here, the range is from 13% to 65% of that combined number. Again, not including the other students who need academic support also. So some of the considerations that we were asked to consider was to really look at the enrollment of kids who are special education, Ls, and former Ls. The former L number is also important. I skipped over that, I believe. So the ever L column or former L column are kids who once qualified, who still require inclusive support. The column that we have with all the districts does not include the former L students. So that's another category that you might want to look at. You have to go on and hand schedule that, and I didn't have time to do that. So you have to hand schedule and look at the kids who are former L, pull their data, and then kind of sync it. And that just kind of gives you a bigger perspective of what's sitting in each school and the type of services and resources, who's sitting in which school, and what type of resources and services they might require. The second consideration would be looking at a way to process and report kids who identify as bilingual students currently in the system if you're not in a bilingual program. So if East doesn't have a bilingual program, but you're a bilingual student, you're not coded in a way that you can actually track. So we do that internally, but I'm going to imagine there are a bunch of kids who are bilingual in programs who are sitting in schools who would benefit from a bilingual program, because it's a service. It's a service, I should say. If they're not receiving the service, then they may not show up on any spreadsheet. And because we were a bilingual school before East, we were able to, kids are signing up for services, we have a better tracking system internally about who those kids are. And then I think the aha for us was just looking at the equitable distribution of students and the resources. One of the largest issues we have in trying to maintain a bilingual service type program is that we don't have the bilingual teachers to be able to provide a full service program. So if we're all competing for the same teachers within the district, or within the county for now, then it's going to be really hard to maintain a program that has a teacher who is bilingual in English, math, social, and science. You might have one school that has 3 of the 4, or 1 of the 4, or 0 of the 4, and so those kids may or may not get the support. I'm talking about the bilingual students that they may need. Any questions about that? I gave you a lot, but I wanted to make sure you had it and you could always follow up with questions later.
I'm going to follow up with you another time. We already had enough conversation. So IAT, in 2016-17, are you saying that they had 20.96% of students who were ELL, but then they had a drop to 3.54%?
What I'm saying,
almost 17%
What I'm gonna,
16% drop.
Anybody want to answer that question? This is data pulled from the district, so.
Anybody know why they had such a huge drop? And also, why did Monroe have
Commissioner LeBron, what
Yeah.
page are you
What page
looking
are you
at
on?
and what line
It's-
are
I
you
put the
looking
slide
at?
up here.
page 10 on the slide? Page 10, it's the school right under soda. If you look at 2016, 17, and 17, 18, they're reporting ELL at 20.96%, but then they had a drop to 3.54%. I mean, that's a pretty big drop for that, like the most dramatic drop in that whole, in the whole chart. They also had a drop with
I
their,
just became the board liaison for IAT, and, I can't think of his name.
Mr. Klein, Kevin Klein.
Kevin Klein.
You know, I understand he does, his history in the district has been, he's done some great work. So now, I'm not exactly sure if that, you know, because of his work, or if this just could be a mistake. And if somebody can respond to that, you know, later on, or in the summertime, I don't know if he's around, I guess I can follow up with a question to him about that.
okay.
And this, again, this is not graduation rate, this is just enrollment population, so.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
that's a
clear-
pretty
I'm just
big
clarifying.
dip.
No, I'm just
like,
clarifying.
16%.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Cynthia, can you also ask about the drop in special education and ELL combined? It's almost 15% total for
Yeah,
both.
just send me an email.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I'll do that.
Just, yeah. Barb's staff will make sure they check that as well. You gotta.
Yeah, the number, I mean, so
I'm
these
not
are.
looking at you, Sean.
No, no, no,
Okay.
no. I will say, I know that.
So I know there's a chief for that
yeah.
section that Barb would want to have part of that conversation.
On the state of the path forward and back with the placement
Okay.
team and Cecilia's team every Monday, so we can check it.
Okay.
Does look like it's not.
And where'd this come from? Sean, where'd this come from? Where'd your data
Data
come from?
department here.
All right, so it looks like someone's going to double check the data to make
I
sure.
know we
it's right.
double checked ours at East and numbers were spot on, so
Right.
just, I want to say that, I think they did a really good job of pulling it, and we sorted it internally, and then they were within a margin of error.
So,
I know that we pulled the team together to do the double checking and get the district numbers. Did we have a chance to get that completed today? Yeah. Do we have an answer? We have some.
yeah, come on,
I
come on.
think might be double checking, and Dr. Gold. So Dr. Golden and I will double check the numbers, because it does look like the L's might be a different number, because at IAT, their special education percentage has gone up, which is one of the things we're working on and have been working on with Path Forward to balance across the schools, but we can provide more data on each school and just cross-check with Dr. Nelms, make sure we're all on the same page about all of them and IAT specifically. Because that is not the number necessarily we have, is
The
3%,
number,
but we'll
just-
double check.
Okay, the number on page 9 for IAT for special education did go up by a little bit under 3%. But on page 10, when we talk about ELLs, that number went down. I mean, the most, it's dramatically went down.
I don't know that does not match our data on the sheets I have, so let us double check. Ours is
Okay.
higher.
Okay.
But we'll double check, because I want to make sure we're looking at the same data source and defining it the same. But we have it as much higher than that for IAT.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I think that Macy brings up a different question. It's the same. This is the data we were given, so, all right, moving on. So, I also wanted to take some time to also mention that in your packet, there was a Step to College update. I know I mentioned that last month, but there is the itinerary and agenda for those days. These are the 30 students or so who the Conan Foundation paid to spend 2 weeks on the college campus, work with area resident artists and educators to have a college-going experience. And this is just, Lorna Washington has led that. Lorna, you gonna wave a little bit? So she's there for these 2 weeks with the staff and those students, and it's been a really good experience. If you get a chance to stop by the campus or you want to get over there, let me know. But every year it goes to a different campus. It started at U of R. They'll do some work at Geneseo and St. John Fisher and RIT. And the idea is that next year we'll expand it to all kids throughout the city. It could be 30 kids per year that will be added. So that in 4 years, there'll be 120 kids staying on college campuses.
I sure would like if you would do it at a HBCU.
Yep. So it's funny you say that. So we take our kids on 8th grade trip to HBCUs. We talked about we have to take the kids there, drive them or fly them for 2 weeks. We did think about that as well. Marilyn Grant, who's with the Carnine Foundation, has insisted on that as well. So we wanted to start local, get the kids together, and then move them out.
Howard would be great.
Yep. We take the kids to Howard in for
To
8th
stay
grade
on the
trip
campus, yeah.
to stay there for a while. Yeah. Yep. I agree. Pardon me? I see. I gotta start vying for certain schools. I know. No, you're right. No. That's right. No, absolutely. I think it is very.
Vote in for Hampton.
See, we be all over the place. No, but the idea, honestly, is that we expand it, and we really want to make sure it's inclusive. And we're writing a grant. We'll write a grant next year, continue the grant to see if we can get more kids throughout the city to be a part of it from all the schools and slowly build out. So it's not just an East thing. That's not the plan. And then I also included for you in the board packet our professional development for the week, so you can understand what we've done for our admin retreat. But going back to the data. So the admin retreat we've had the last couple of days is really focused on our data work and trying to get really granular about the work of our kids. Now, this is a lot on this slide, and I apologize, but I'm not going to go through every slide, but I want you to have it. But I'm going to explain how it's read, and then you can take it from there. If you look at the chart, the bar that's in red were the seniors the year before we came. The chart next to it, you see it's only one bar. That year we entered, we only really were with those kids for 1 year. The next year we were with kids for 2 years. 2014 cohort, we were with those kids for 3. And then this end of next year, we'll have our first cohort of kids who have been there for 4 years. Then you see the far left will be kids who receive credits in their freshman year or their 8th grade year, okay? So it's a combined rate there. So the way I look at this, and then you'll see some numbers are bolded. What's bolded is the year in which the assessment is given. So the math assessment is typically given by the end of their first year. So if you look at the first chart, the 2012 cohort, which would have been seniors 4 years later in 2015-16, 54% of those kids graduated with passing the math assessment for that cohort. The year before, only 46% of those kids passed the math assessment before graduating. If you look at our freshman class this past school year, it's at 54%, which means our freshmen that we have now, who've been with us for 3 years now, have already outperformed the seniors from the year before we came to East and the seniors who graduated last year. And so you look at it kind of that way. You look at it as a 1, 2, 3 year, 4 year impact, and you can kind of see across all the different content areas some of the progress that we're tracking and how we're able to make some of those determinations and predictions around graduation success. This is also a tool that we use with the state education department when they come to do our review of the school to see if we're going to make progress within the 5 years of the EPO, or well on our way. So when Commissioner Elliott asked, will we get to 70%? Is that the next number? I would look at that, Commissioner, and say for math, 70% of the kids have already passed the math assessment from this past year's juniors. So I know that's our baseline in math, but they got to get 70% have to pass in all 4. So that's where you kind of play with the numbers a little bit and kind of get an idea of where you are, and then you target work in summer school and then throughout the school year. So I just want to give you that. You can take a look at it, and you'll see, like in science, we saw a dip at one point, and we recovered the year after, but there's enough data there if you kind of get an idea of the progress that we are having and that we hope to continue to have. That's it?
Any other questions or comments?
No, but thank you, and I appreciate you putting an additional timeline of EPO sped decisions in the back.
Okay.
So thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nelms. Again, in the family room or in the living room, we sometimes adapt and we compromise. So we had one superintendent's report. Now we're going to have the bilingual council report. All right, that's fair. Isn't that fair? All right, bilingual council, come on up. Now, as she comes up, let me just say, come on up. No, come on up. One of the reasons why I think and Dr. Lee's going to do some research, we may have done it this way previously, is this is not only about them giving information to us, and by the way, we added this part since I became president. They weren't always giving reports, and PAC. But it's not only important to hear information from us, but I think the reason why we delay it, we put it after the superintendent's report is, if possible, we want them to hear what's going on in our district, right, comprehensively. So I think as we talk about this later on, we should take that into account. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I understand that, and I really appreciate that. But you need to understand that you talk and talk and talk, and we volunteers, we got kids at home, so, and we in summer.
Well, no, I appreciate that, and like I said, we'll talk about it, we'll talk and talk some more, but, because that's how we deliberate. But part of the process is for us to hear what's going on with you all, and for you to hear from our superintendents and our student representative, so you can communicate to your groups, including PAC, what's going on here. But if you can't stay, and we've had plenty of instances.
But actually, you know what? I hear all that. I put it in YouTube.
What?
And I hear it on YouTube at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm getting
watch it
ready
on
to go.
YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, well.
When I'm ready to go to work, so.
Okay, all right, all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay. Good evening. My name is Myrna Gonzalez. I'm the president of the Bilingual Educational Council. And here on my side is Ms. Elizabeth Steves, the vice president of the Bilingual Educational Council. Thank you for this opportunity to share some of the activities that the council has been working on. We are bilingual parents, community-based organizations, and educators representing and advocating for the educational rights to a quality bilingual education for all students in the district. During the summer, the Bilingual Educational Council leadership will have meetings to review and make any change needed on our mission, vision, and bylaws to support students, parents, families, and address areas of concern that need attention and advocacy. The Bilingual Educational Council will participate in several of the school district back-to-school events and community outreach and the Puerto Rican Festival. Last year, we passed out information about the Bilingual Educational Council and gave away free books.
Hello, everyone. Okay, we need your attention and action to address the following concerns. We attend the PTA conference this year in New Orleans and had some serious problem with RCSD staff. We want to meet with the superintendent to address this and other concerns. We also want to meet with the new leadership, Dr. Golden, as soon as possible. And thank you, Dr. Golden, for reaching out to the BEC. We look forward to securing a date before September 2018. We have not heard anything about giving our input to the evaluation of the acting director of the bilingual department. Before any action is taken on that position, we want and need you to hear about our experiences and concerns. As we mentioned last month in the BEC, we need to be part of the selection process, and we have not received any information about the staffing for the new bilingual academy. This includes who is selected to be the program director of the Bilingual Language Academy, the grades that will be in there, where in Hart Street are the grades going to be located, what does the curriculum covers, how long will the student be there before they're ready and can be transferred to a permanent school placement, and also where would the students eat lunch. We will also like a final ELL budget for all positions or staffings, resources that are needed for the BEC, parent meetings, support, that support our meetings, workshops. We will also like some clarity on staffing structures and report lines for 2018-2019. We want the staff and leadership at Edison to be prepared to receive more bilingual students. We do not want students or parents to feel unwelcome there. Also, thank you, Ms. LeBron.
I didn't see this in your report. This was not pre-planned, guys. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you for requesting to move us up on the agenda. Like Myrna mentioned, we are a group of volunteers that dedicate a lot of time and energy to support our students and our parents. We want to make formal requests at this moment that both group, the BEC and PAC report, be moved up on the agenda before the speaker. And as you know, many times there could be a really long list of speakers, and for us parents that are working hard for other parents, are left waiting for very long hours.
And for last, but not less important, I want to ask you a question. Which one of you lose a kid in a food court, in a mall? You know how you feel when you lose your kid in a mall? That's how I feel when I went to the bilingual academy and I see our kindergarteners to fourth grade eating in the cafeteria with a lot of adults from the other programs in the building. They says that they got a person who go with them to the bathroom. I was there for around 20, 25 minutes. And in that time, 3 little kids get in the bathroom without supervision. Another thing is, there is a very big group of young ladies of 13, 14, 15, very high hormones. And there is a lot of 21, 22, 23 kids that are in the programs for adults. They got access. The students from the academy got access to these gentlemen, and that's a very big problem because the safety of our kids is in jeopardy. So if you lose a kid in the mall, you can imagine your kid between a lot of strangers in their school lunchroom. So I wish you can consider to put our kids to it in another place that is not the adult lunchroom of all of the other schools in the building. It needs a village to raise a kid. And it's our responsibility with all the kids in Rochester to keep them safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be brief with my remarks this evening, so I'm going to turn over the presentation to both Beth Mesiti-Miller and Lorna Washington, who are going to be updating some important information that had been requested by the board. I want to thank the commissioners and the entire staff across the district for all the efforts that were made to make sure that summer learning started this year. And I want to highlight some of the work that's going on by our staff and our families and our students this summer. First, I'm excited to share the Office of Student Equity and Placement has kicked off the 18-19 pop-up registration model. We've hosted close to 10 events between May and June, from recruiting students and families at a series of Rochester Public Library events, the Family Affair event at Charlotte Beach, partnering with community neighbors at the 19th Ward Square Fair event at Aberdeen Square Park, which was hosted by the 19th Ward and Juneteenth Celebration Community Committee. Also, the recent pop-up registration held at the Seneca Park Zoo, and their successful Jungle Jog 5K event, which was Sunday, July 15th. I really want to thank our bilingual team They've been engaging with families, providing direct registration and school selection support and guidance, and have been able to answer questions about school choice, the enrollment practice, and the exciting opportunities that are taking place in establishing our district's first RISE school. I want to thank also those that represented Rochester for intensive summer learning with other urban school districts across the country at the Harvard Public Education Leadership Project. Grateful to President White for participating in this engaging work for the entire week. I also want to thank Dr. Adam Urbanski, Deputy Beth Miller, Chief Idonia Owens, Ruth Turner, Amy Shabby, Sharon Jackson, for participating in this rigorous work that was designed to really push our thinking around the strategic plan and the comprehensive district report, also on the strategies that have been put into place, gave us the time to look at the information about student performance with more time and depth, as well as having partners from districts across the country. Rochester is one of 12 districts that was admitted this year as part of a 3-year institute, and we worked with partner districts to focus on the development of culturally and linguistically responsive literacy curriculum. That's something that's being worked on throughout the country. Also, strong focus on social emotional learning and the persistent use of data to look at patterns of failure as well as areas that are working well, to inform decisions about support and strategy moving on. So it was good to have the time to do that deep work. Returning from Harvard, the senior team then spent an additional 5 days working with the teaching and learning leaders, curriculum leaders, parent engagement leaders, and others to ensure that the comprehensive improvement plan was thoroughly reviewed. As you know, we had 6 tenant teams that meet during the year to monitor performance with each school's plan. So having the time again to look at that work deeply and to have district teams coordinate their calendars and their project management plans was helpful. We're now doing final planning for the coordination of the 5-day teaching and learning summer, which rolls the information forward to our principals, assistant principals, teacher leaders, parents, and students that will be representing various schools as they design their school improvement plans this year. I also want to thank commissioners for joining, providing input on the DSIP goals and strategies, and also for the extensive feedback and conversation about the data dashboards and the digital system that will continue to be revised over the summer and then rolled out in the fall. I also want to thank our partners from the National and Greater Rochester Summer Learning Associations, representatives from the City of Rochester, Monroe County, who joined us to celebrate National Summer Learning Day on Thursday, July 12th. Deputy Golden represented the district and read from a joint proclamation. This is a National Advocacy Day aimed at elevating the importance of keeping kids learning safe and healthy every summer and ensuring they return to school ready for learning and a continued focus on literacy, numeracy, and other academics, as well as the arts and music. I want to thank Commissioner LeBron for attending, also Dr. Elaine Spall from the Center for Youth, and all of the summer learning partners that have been actively helping the Rochester community recognize and celebrate the power of literacy and the concept of using the community as a classroom. That's something that the work will continue and extend with a focus on community learning and literacy throughout this year. I now want to turn this over to Dr. Mercedes Miller and also Lauren Washington. I know that the two of you, Dr. Nelson, I thank you for the work that you did together to put together the presentation for our commissioners that they requested. So thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Shepherd.
I just wanted to request some information on the pop-up registrations. I want to know how well they're doing, how many families or students that you're getting enrolled, just to get a feel of if certain areas do better than others.
Okay, great. Step aside. Okay. Good evening. So Lorna and I are going to provide a joint presentation on the status and updates and activities of the 33 and East EPO EPO enrollment and feeder pattern for 5-Go-6. So very quickly, in this first slide, just highlighting the Resolution 717, which was adopted by the board on May 25th, 2017. Indicates that students attending school number 33 are encouraged and supported to attend East in their 6th grade year. That the EPO superintendent is directed and the principal of school number 33 is authorized to collaborate and develop a plan during the 17-18 school year, the transition year, to promote a smooth partnership between the two schools. And students currently attending the 5th grade at school number 33, who can be appropriately served at East, shall be guaranteed placement in the 6th grade at East in the transition year. Then the following two items, nothing shall preclude students transferring from school 33 to East in the 6th grade in the 17-18 school year, from participating in the school selection process going into 7th grade, nor shall it preclude students from elementary schools other than 33 applying to East. And then lastly, the EPO superintendent shall report to the board on the school number 33 East collaboration annually in September or thereafter, or based on tonight's presentation, more data about the progress of the students and the process itself. So Lorna's going to take you through the next few slides.
So the next two slides actually give you some information regarding some of the activities that we have held over the last year to support the partnership with School 33 and East. We have partnered with the Connected Communities Agency. We have an MOU with them as well to help us with some of this work in recruiting School 33 parents as well as those who live in the Beechwood Emma neighborhood. Over the last year, we've held several meetings with Connected Communities, with placement, IM&T staff, during those meetings, we actually drafted out a communications plan to inform parents of the partnership, what that was going to mean for their scholars, how they would be able to transition to East if that was what they desired to do, and then what the option was if they just chose to stay at School 33. We also worked with the IM&T department to share data collectively amongst ourselves as well as with Connected Communities so that we would have accurate data to reach out to those families in the neighborhood. During that time, our special education team also reviewed the programs of incoming scholars for East for the 17-18 school year, as well as for those that are coming in for the 18-19 school year, and just assured that there was alignment with our program offerings at East. We also sought out to work with the 5th grade and 6th grade teachers at School 33 to ensure that there was alignment with the curriculum that's being taught at School 33 and what the students were going to be expected to know once they came over to East and what we would need to do to make sure that they were learning the same things that we were teaching. And we also partnered with Connected Communities to fund unpaid volunteers. Unpaid volunteers actually helped us as well, but we also funded paid parent ambassadors. There are 4, 2 from East, 2 from School 33, that actually go out and, like I said earlier, speak to the parents about the partnership for School 33 and within the Emma and Beechwood neighborhood. And there were several meetings that were held as well throughout the year to bring the new administrators up to speed on the partnership. As you know, there was transition with Kendra March, Linus Guillory, and Bo Wright. All of those were assigned to help us throughout the process. So there was some time or lag in time at points where that kind of slowed the process a bit. So on the next slide, you'll see that there are some activities that have been highlighted to talk about how we have worked together collaboratively. We attended each other's open houses. We also had an administrative tour as well as a tour for all of the 5th graders to come over to East. During this time, the staff that attended as well as the students were able to come in, take a look at our classrooms, take a look at the building, do a tour, ask questions, talk to our students. They were actually able to pair up with students during that time as well. We invited School 33 over to attend some of our events that we had as part of our family and community engagement team. And we had several recruitment nights, some that were geared specifically towards School 33 and some that were general, but invited School 33 as well. We also used door-to-door outreach methods and neighborhood recruitment, again, using our parent ambassadors and our volunteers, as well as the East Community Outreach Coordinator and our homeschool assistant. And then there were some district-led events. You want to speak about the path forward? Okay. There were also some district-led events that were held as well. There was the Path Forward meeting that was held with the Emma Beechwood Neighborhood Association, informing parents about their options as well. And there were also applications mailed out to the fifth grade families directly from the district, as well as some information mailed out to the parents from East to welcome them in. So as far as the enrollment data, the first line there will show you the number of School 33 scholars who are actually enrolled to date to attend East for the 18-19 school year. If you look at the first box, you'll see that out of a possible 170 fifth graders, there are actually 25 School 33 students who are coming into East and 18 grade 7 scholars who are transitioning into East. And from grade 6, that was out of a possible 152. And then the second row will show you the scholars that are coming into 6th grade and 7th grade from throughout the rest of the school district. So one of the things that Beth had mentioned was that we are not excluding anyone else from being able to come into East. This is information that supports that as well. And then the very bottom, it just shows the anticipated enrollment for School 33 for the 18-19 school year. And so those are potential students that we can tap to come into East for next year as well.
So, I mean, these numbers are so low for it to be considered a feeder school into East. And I know that there was some concern brought up in the past about fidelity with the MOU that we have. And I'm just wondering, what do we need to do to try to rectify this or?
Right. We have some of that outlined. Can I?
Oh, go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. So we went through and did a forensics on what happened, how do you begin to institutionalize a feeder pattern on year one, because it does take a shift in culture for people to say, I go to 33 and I automatically go to East, and how do you get people from A to B? So we found some good things that happened and some challenges that did happen, why the numbers are low, okay? So we said, okay, here are the strengths about why we were doing it, what happened, what we messaged out to the community, and so on and so forth. So we know it aligns to the key elements of a community school is trying to develop a seamless transition for kids and provide support systems around the 7 to 7. A goal to provide support systems to the neighborhood families, and we heard that through Path Forward about the feeder pattern, again, just reinforcing why the board voted on what they did when it was presented. Another goal and a strength was, we have kids that did engage in this seamless transition, and we're going to monitor them, which is one of the elements of the board resolution, is that the EPO will come back and then tell you the progress of the students that made the transition. And also that we began to, the conversations were about lining the curriculum. So another piece is when you align the bilingual programs, you align the special ed programs. So all those other pieces were strengths that will occur, but also challenges that we found at the same time about why you see the numbers. We need to do better. So some of the considerations or challenges that were raised was how do we engage parents in the choice process so that they're fully informed about the decision they're making. We found that there was some lack of clarity or confusion about roles and responsibilities. I'm just sharing with you what we found about some of the challenges that we're going to do better at, which you're going to see in our next steps. The other thing is making sure that all the other operational sides aligned, that we had resources tightened up from 33 to East, making sure transportation. So again, these were some of the things that played into this first year of trying to get the feeder pattern going. And the next thing was fidelity of the school choice process and just making sure we communicate that clearly to everybody. So together we came up with some next steps. Lorna's going to talk about the school steps, and then I'll talk about the district-wide steps we're going to do to improve the process.
So some of the building-based initiatives that we plan to do is to continue those recruitment nights that we spoke about earlier with targeted recruitment aimed towards School 33 parents. Again, utilizing those parent ambassadors as well as our East staff and working more collaboratively with the School 33 staff as well. We also plan to seek opportunities for curricular alignment and professional development so that we could be better aligned there as well. We also are looking to attend the 5th grade team meetings at School 33. Our East teachers will be attending those, as well as Connected Communities has been invited as well. And there are going to continue to be those parent informational meetings held throughout the school year, where we'll give the parents more information about the partnership, as well as the offerings that we have at East. And then we are looking also to enhance the data process between East and School 33 so that we can better understand the students that we will have coming into East or potentially will have coming into East.
I just have a few more, I have some questions. So when you guys did the recruitment nights before and also with your parent ambassadors, I just feel like you guys did so much work to do outreach to the families. Did you guys have a sense of a higher number? I mean, I broke it down into percentages. So did you guys think that all the effort that you made at School 33 with outreach and recruitment with all of these factors, that the percentage would be more than 15% of those students and 12%? Did you guys have a sense? Was there like a, you know, a rough number based on the parents who participated in the outreach, and then it just got lowered from what you guys were expecting or anticipated?
Yeah, we really did anticipate that there was going to be a lot higher number there. We started to see that the numbers were going down around January or so. We started to see that we weren't getting as many applications as we thought that we would receive. And so that's when we really started to push our parent ambassadors out and do that door-to-door outreach to try to recruit parents to begin coming in. Yes,
okay.
We struggled with that.
Okay.
I have two questions. The first question is around, I think this may be a Beth question, I'm not sure, when I asked it. Do you know how many parents actively participated from School 33 in the school choice process? Which means they actually actively went and picked a school. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to know if, what my thinking is, if you had only 50% of the students, the parents actually pick a school and just be placed in a school, I want to know, like, of the parents who actually chose something, how many of those chose East? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. I'll do my best to answer, and if you need more detail, I'll get it to you.
Do you understand why I'm asking?
I do. I think you want to know, did each individual parent have an opportunity to make an informed choice and participate or not? And what's that number?
Or I want to know how many parents actually made, because I am hoping that every parent had an opportunity to make an informed choice. But life happens, and I want to know how many parents went through and actually applied to a school, and of those parents, do you know what I mean?
I do.
Because there's some parents I know, like in my neighborhood, because this is my neighborhood school, that there's some parents who come up in August and like, you know, they put my kid at Edison. I said, why did they put your kid at Edison? What did you choose during school choice? Oh, I forgot to fill out the form.
So,
you know what
yes,
I'm saying? So
I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
I do. So I'll tell you what my investigation found on the school side and some of the communication around that. So because 5-6 is not a natural point of transition at this point or across our system at the district level, is that everybody did get from the school building. Now I will say that also East made a monumental effort to recruit, right? They did their due diligence. But also then the school went back and connected with every family to make an informed choice. Now, in the future, what we're going to do is do a survey, focus groups, excuse me, about why did people make the choices they did? Did they feel that they didn't know enough to make the choice to ease, or they were encouraged to stay at 33? It could be any number of those things, so we're going to do focus groups. But each family was contacted about their choice. Nobody had passive consent. Like, in other words, if you don't choose, you automatically go here.
Right. But I mean, like, all right, 6 go 7.
Now, 6 go 7 is a little different.
I mean, I understood,
Okay.
I think I know what can happen 5 go 6,
Okay.
but 6 go 7, those kids have to go somewhere because 33
Yes.
ends. You can't stay
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So I want to know, those kids are automatically rolled up into the school choice process, yes?
Yes, 6 go 7s are.
6 go 7. So of 6 go 7s,
Yes.
of the parents who made a choice, I should have been more specific in my
Okay.
initial ask.
No, that's okay.
Because I understand that 5 go 6 is not a natural choice, and a
I
lot of
got you.
parents will just opt to let their kids stay because they want to stay in the, in the elementary schools,
Right.
feel small. I understand that, but I don't understand why the number for 6 go 7
That I would
is
have.
as low as I.
I can go back and get the data about the specific choice around 6 go 7. I was digging more into the 5 go 6 about the feeder pattern.
Right.
But I can definitely get you that for the 6 go 7.
Okay, and then the other thing I want to ask is, I hear a lot of technical solutions that you're using to get at this thing, but have you thought about some adaptive solutions about building the relationship between 33 and East? Like, if you have East seniors and juniors who are going to read to kids at 33, if you have the relationships that you're building between families, between East and 33 that are starting before 5th grade, like kindergarten, first, second, that you have readers and math tutors or whatever that you have from East going to 33, you start to build a thing that these two schools belong together.
Absolutely.
Because I hear a lot of technical solutions, but I'm not hearing a lot of adaptive work.
And they did do a lot of that. I'll let Lorna speak just really quickly to that, because they did have programs where the kids would go in and read and try to build these relationships with the teachers and the families. Do you want to speak a little bit more to that?
And I will speak too. We did have some programs where our scholars went over to School 33 through part of the Teaching and Learning Institute program, and they did just that. They read to the students. So our teachers in the TLI program also went over there and did some training with the students on like play techniques and ways to get the kids to learn through play. So that they did some of that over the school year as well. Yeah.
Okay, and that's fine. My thing is that we try all these other things, but if we start to build the culture that these two schools go together, that the kids are like, I can't wait. I want to be like Devon at East. So I'm going to go to East so I could be like Devon. Because those are the ways that people make choices in real life. Just saying.
I think also what's important, Mr. Funches, is that we also realize at times just that the elementary teachers.
You're gonna have
we also noticed that at times the elementary teachers were not well informed of the secondary options, and so we noticed that as well and tried to make sure they were informed about the various schools that were chosen. One of the outcomes I thought which was not intended, it was never intended for 33 to call each of their parents moving into 5th or 6th grade to ask if they wanted to stay. But as I said before, if that process works so well for those parents to make an informed decision to stay, that I wonder what would happen if all parents were contacted about the school choice process before they made a selection. So I think that was kind of one of those unintended consequences, but it actually became a very good process for communication with parents around all choices, not just these, all choices. And we hope that we can strengthen the partnerships even through curriculum work that we have. We can look at adaptive curriculum that's pre-K-12, so the kids have certain skill sets that we can help reinforce when they get there, and data is shared as they come through. One of our data dives today, we looked at the level of need in our kids in decoding complex text, and realizing that we don't necessarily teach grammar at East, and we make some assumptions that grammar is taught pre-K-5, and so we want to work more with the district to say what exactly is the elementary curriculum, so we can build on that in 6th grade as they come. So I think when you have a feeder pattern, it informs the parents of the curricular outcomes, PK through 12. It makes them understand what some of the schools may offer when they roll up, and also it's a really clean way of data sharing. So we also, in our first year, through our community schools fund, we actually had 3 teachers. We paid for them half a day to work in 33 with their teachers and kids. So they actually went to the school and worked there in the classrooms. So they get to know the kids. So when they came to East, the kids would know them, and they would know the kids, and then it would be a smooth transition. So there were a lot of efforts there, but I do think that the communication moving forward is going to improve. Beth has been great. Lorna as well has continued to be phenomenal in this cause, and the community is still asking for it. So I'm really hoping that this is a start of a different type of partnership and alignment.
As while you're standing here, because you've mentioned this, I want to say this and I'll be done about this, that this can go, I want us to think, Beth, and this is aimed toward you, I want us to think about this more as we think about creating visions. I think I spoke from the days before about us visioning, working with parents to vision for their children, about their academic career pre-K-12, because we have the unique, and 33, because it has the preschool program there, we have a unique opportunity to be with our parents and help them start visioning when their children are 3 and 4 years old about what they see for their children, you know, and being able to create that vision, and through this partnership, being able to actually concretely see it pre-K all the way to college or to career or to wherever they're going. So I just want to say that.
Commissioner? Oh.
Yeah, along those same lines about choice and vision, and to a limited degree, Commissioner Funches said about visioning. Each and every time the board is presented with a proposal that has to do with neighborhood schools, feeder patterns, we're shown scatter diagrams of where the kids live, and in many cases, we can't even say that our zone placement system is functioning properly, because when you look at all the kids that live outside the zone that are attending any given school. So my question, and this is the question I thought Commissioner Funches was asking, is of the kids at school 33, how many of them actively participated in the lottery versus were placed there at kindergarten versus transferred in at some other grade point and were placed there rather than going through our lottery system? And the reason I ask this is I don't believe that we have a way in the system, a code or something in the system that will easily tell us that. So you'd have to go in student by student to find out how they landed in school 33. But if we want the 33 East feeder to represent a neighborhood schools, or to support a neighborhood schools concept, we need to work harder at encouraging families who live in the neighborhoods to choose that school. And that goes to Commissioner Funches' point about relationships starting at the preschool level. And so I guess if there's a question in here is there a code in our system that allows us to determine whether they went through the lottery? And if not, can we get one in there so that going forward, we can actually analyze the data and find out who participated? Last point on that, when we developed school choice, the concept of parents choosing their school was a concept embedded as much as any other reason in the idea of giving parents agency. That if they chose their school, that from that point forward they would feel invested, that they would have agency, that they could go to the school and voice their concerns, become demand parents. So if we're not doing what we need to do to encourage families to make those choices, we can't hope to develop demand parents. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't think they were through with their report. Were you through with your
No,
report?
just really,
thank you, Commissioner.
And then
So,
I have a question.
yes, and I hear you all about the hearts and minds pieces and shifting people's families opportunity to have a K through 12 and understanding that that's an option for them now with this partnership. But at the same time, we also know we had systems problems that we're working to improve to make the partnership stronger. And I do want to mention that Principal Ellison is back there because he's been a big part of trying to make this work for families. So we are going to have a specific recruitment plan written out, and we will share that with you about dates, times, so everybody is on the same page, and we will clarify what do letters look like, how do we help families make choice, opt out, opt in, and so that we're all clear and on the same page about that. We do want to hold those focus groups with families to understand where is the breakdown? Is it on the systems part? What is it? And at that time, I did take notes about the data and searching back about what families might be making which choices. And lastly, two things, is that the Board of Education approval is required as a reminder for the 33 and East High School Partnership beyond the 2021 school year, and that the EPO superintendent and the district superintendent will be providing a report in partnership about the update in the data.
Let me just go back to the basics. We're taking students from school, from the sixth graders from school 33. Are they still going to have a sixth grade class? And why are we, it's almost like it's forced busing, right? So why are we taking, we either don't have a sixth grade class at 33 school, and we have one at East, or we don't have one at East, and we continue with the sixth graders at 33 school. I think what we did as a board is force something on 33 school that we really, and the politics got in the way of this, and we really did not think this through. Hence, where we are now, right? Where we are now. Now, we either need to not have a sixth grade class at school 33 and have it at East High School, or just take out of the contract sixth grade from East High School. No one knows whether or not we're going to be in this business as a EPO in the next with the U of R in the next 2 or 3 years. So now we're going to move them from school, from that school, and then we're trying to force parents to be over at East High School. East High School still has a bad reputation. The name is bad. It hasn't been cleaned up yet. Parents are probably saying, well, I don't know if I want my kid to go to East High School. Now, it's getting changed, but it's still, there's that, you know, the name, the connotation with East High School. So we're trying to work all this other stuff out, and we haven't asked the critical question. What happens to school 6? What happens to school 33 with the students over there and the parents and the teachers? What happened to the teachers? I don't think we've worked any of that out. We've tried to do this superficial kind of work without asking the critical questions. And until we ask the critical questions, all of this work that we're trying to do really is mute. It's wagging the dog by the tail. We've got to ask the first things first, the critical questions. Right? So, and then the question becomes, how many of those students at 33 schools, the sixth graders, are bused in over there? Right? Do we have that information? And if they're bused, does that mean they're going to be bused if they go to East High School? Nobody's asked those kinds of questions. That's all I got to say.
Commissioner Elliott, you're saying that you are absolutely 100% right.
You know I'm always right.
No, I mean, I want to say that loudly. You are right, and this has been the ask for the last year and a half, is to have those conversations. We know that at East, at one point, less than 4% of our kids lived in the neighborhood. So I'm just being honest. So, so we said that's why we focus on the community schools model. We knew that for 33, it was about 20% of the kids at one point, 22% of the kids who lived near school 33, which is near East. So part of that was that would be a slow transition of kids from the neighborhood who live nearby, less busing, hopefully. We actually yellow bus all of our kids from their neighborhoods to East because the parents didn't want to be on the RTS bus, so that would help address that issue. We looked at curricular alignment. That's a big critical question too. How can we align curriculum PK-12, if it's East or not, just across the school system, So those type of conversations is what we've tried to engage the last year and a half, so we can have that thoughtful. And that's why I'm saying I'm encouraged, because I'm hearing Dr. Massetti Miller and Barb say, let's have those big conversations now. And I think we started and stopped.
It wasn't clear to me. That's why
Right, yeah.
I'm putting it out here.
No,
the way in which I'm putting it out here, because that wasn't clear.
And I think that you have the same frustration that's been had, is that when are we going to have the real alignment conversations and not just talk about numbers? Because the numbers don't really matter. It's really the real alignment between the two that we're trying to
So who do you need to have the conversations with?
Well, I think Lorna said it best. There's been start and stops because there have been different deputies who
Okay.
come and gone. So I think Beth is back, and thank you for coming back.
So am I clear about what I'm asking?
Yeah, yeah.
What I think the fundamental conversation needs to be first?
I think Barb and I and
Okay.
Beth and Lorna all agree we have to kind of restart and have the critical conversation about
Because
it.
some of this is politics that's going on in this, and that can't be that's not in the best interest of our students.
I completely
And
agree.
politics is not at this dais, but outside. So we've got to do what's right for our children, you know, and not get caught up into the politics that's out
My
there.
only motivation is to have an alignment pre-K-12 and to try to create something that's unique for the kids in two schools that have not been historically high-performing schools.
All right.
So.
Thank you.
So a couple things. I agree with you, Commissioner Elliott. But if you look back to the history of this resolution, there was some debate about whether we wanted to have a forced pipeline. And if you look at the resolution, it gives parents the option of keeping their child at number 33 school. It specifically says that. So there wasn't, I think the concern was at the time, we didn't want to force parents into doing it. So that language was put in that resolution. Unintended consequences, or perhaps intended consequences. And I'm going to just keep it real here. Then adults in that building, realizing that, I'm talking about instructors, realizing that the parents had a choice, and choice is a good thing, not a bad thing, counseled, I think, parents into keeping their kid at 33. And it wasn't a mean thing. And in fact, it's probably a very natural thing because those teachers had been with those children from day one. So actually, I think it was just the reverse. I think because we had considerable conversation, debate about this, a provision was put in the resolution to give parents the choice. Now, I will agree with you, Commissioner Elliott. I don't want to say what my grandmother used to say. We have to make a decision one way or another, or otherwise it's not going to be a pipeline school. It really won't, because the numbers are so low. This is not a pipeline school. We either got to say this is what we want to do and create those systems and the policy that makes it happen. Because I agree with Commissioner Funches that you got to have natural connections, but in the end, if these kids are with these teachers from K through 5, they're probably, because of the natural relationships that have evolved over 5 years, they're probably going to stick with those teachers. And any student coming over from East High School and even a teacher or two coming over from East High School probably is not going to overwhelm those developed relationships, to be honest about it. Probably won't. So from our end, as a board, in addition to you doing those stuff that you're already doing, I think we do have to boo-boo or get off the toilet and make a decision as to whether, she didn't say boo-boo, by the way, make a decision as to whether we really want to do this pipeline, because I think the numbers are going to continue to be low. I'll do Commissioner Hallmark, and then I know, because she hasn't spoken. Well, let me just keep on going down the line here, and then was it related to the point that you made? Okay, can you wait for 1 second? All right, go ahead.
But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I forgot it, because it was related to this.
Okay.
But it slipped.
Well, if you remember, let me know. Commissioner Hallmark?
So I'm just really pleased to hear the deeper analysis that's been going on,
Yep.
that you two have been working, the district and East has been working together to analyze what's been going on, and I would expect this to happen. I'm particularly happy to hear about the deeper work that's happening about aligning the curriculum between the two schools, and then providing opportunities for the teachers to get to know each other, because once those relationships develop and there's trust, then if there's 2 classes in this one and 4 in that one, or flipped, it doesn't matter. They have a relationship, and there's less of that distrust that may have kind of gotten in there as this process started, so all of that's good. And then I think the question about the data analysis around, the youngest kids at 33, did those families participate? And can we track that in the data better? And can we make sure that the parents are not being placed, but really understand they have a choice? And I think all of that deeper work is going to help this feeder pattern work, not just publicizing it, but the deeper work. So I think you're on the right track.
I remember. Yeah, I think that if they have established a relationship at 33 school, they've gone there from, what do you got, pre-K, UPK, Principal Ellison. Then there is relationships that's been established. There's neighborhood involvement that have been there. So, and one of the things that I have heard in elementary school is that kids want to stay at those elementary, and that's why I supported a K-8 model, because kids tend to want to stay where they've been nurtured. And so to move them from where they have been nurtured since early pre-K, and then to move them to another environment, I just think we have to do one or the other. We're either going to have the 6th grade, continue with the 6th grade at 33 school, or we're going to move a 6th grade to East High School, grandfather that in, so to speak, but not sort of rip, and I think that's what we'd be doing, rip the parents and the children from a school that they've been nurtured at for, 6 years or so.
No, I just, I kind of want to understand two things. So these conversations weren't had prior to the resolution. Like, did you guys have these conversations about the 6th grade in one school versus another?
Yes, we had a lot of lengthy discussions prior to the EPO being signed. Mary Adams at the time was the board member, and Commissioner Hallmark was involved a little bit as well at the time, and Will as well. Everyone gave input. We revised that agreement. Even the day of, we were revising the agreement to really protect school choice, to talk about the structures and plans. And then the board challenged us to then create this process. And I think that's where we are now, that the process never materialized jointly from that point of the resolution to now.
Okay.
So it was not the board's oversight, it was implementation. It was
okay.
Barbara, and then Commissioner Elliott.
So I do want to speak to this because one of the things that we know nationally from feeder pattern research is that it's important to have a pattern that families can follow. And one of the concerns, frankly, is if we're going to have a K-5, 6-12 pattern, we need to seek to replicate that across the district. To avoid having students that may want to go to the School of the Arts or to Edison, go to K-5 school, then have to move for grade 6 and then move again for grade 7. Where that pattern has been introduced to districts, it creates some confusion for families. So one of the things we tried to do at Path Forward, quite frankly, was we studied feeder patterns in districts across the country, the potential impact it may have on parents who are not able to navigate through some of those complexities, and made a determination at the time to allow for 33 students who may wish to go to Edison or the School of the Arts to remain in that school. I think over time, if we were to say this is going to be K-5 and we provide other options for parents who want a K-6 experience to then enter 7-12, or frankly, we did look at extending the School of the Arts to grade 6, Edison to grade 6, to see if we could create a new pattern of K-5, 6-12, but your FMP process is far enough along where that did create some additional challenges. But I just want to say that there were many, many hours spent on sort of trying to map this out, and this was clearly a compromise. I think it was anticipated, however, that the majority of students would go to East and that it would be fewer students who would stay back. So whether or not we want to just make that decision, we have to think about what we're going to do with the students who want to attend other schools that are 7-12.
And I think when Lorna said that the numbers of students declined in January, up until January, the vast majority of parents we contacted at 33 had indicated they were coming to East. And when the calls were made, that number shifted.
You mean the calls from the district? Oh, I'm sorry. I
She can follow through.
I have a follow-up question on
Yes,
that.
the calls that, and again, all with good intentions, I want to say that. But up until that point, when we make personal calls and use the ambassadors, the vast majority of kids had indicated that they would come to East. And then when the applications started coming in, we followed up with those parents. They said, well, we talked to our teacher or we talked to someone at the school and we're going to stay for our last year.
Okay.
Commissioner Elliott and then Commissioner Shepard.
Yeah, you asked a question, Commissioner LeBron, about the historical piece that you asked a question about. Let me say, I had a health crisis during that time, so I wasn't thinking well. Oh. But I think, and I support, because we were put in a position where we needed to save the school because it was going into receivership, and to the president's we entered into a partnership with the U of R. Now, after thinking about it, I'm not so good because it's expensive, right? And then it's these things that we were moving so quickly. It's these kinds of things that we really didn't think through. And they really needed to have been thought through if it was going to be effective. I don't know if we really talked to the principals and the teachers and the administrators over at 33 School in a very effective or with fidelity. I don't know if we talked to them about it, but we sort of rushed from this board level to make this happen. And so we're sort of here now where we are because I don't think we did the due diligence. I do think there was this political stuff in the neighborhoods that was going on, and you know, we're trying to, you know, be with the mayor's office, and we're trying to be with that connect communities and those kinds of things. And I think we got pushed in without really thinking about the impact that this is going to have on our families and on our students and on the teachers who work with these students all along. And so if there was some pushback from the teachers, you know, they sort of did like this thing like they did with the opt-out, you know, and that's because they got relationships. So we didn't do a very good job of working this piece out.
Let me just say, everybody's recollection is different, but I think Dr. Nelms had described the detail, and for those of you who weren't there, you should just check the record.
Yeah, I'm gonna research it.
A lot of work was put into this. There were resolutions that were altered and re-altered. Community groups came in here and spoke because they had deliberated out in the community. This thing was discussed exhaustively. This was no, okay, let's just make a decision because somebody wants to do it. And in fact, a number of people challenged whether the community wanted to do it, so we had to have another meeting to make sure that there was due diligence in reaching out to the community. I think what happened with respect to the teachers was an unintended consequence, but I don't think it was anything malicious and mean. They just wanted to stay with their children. I think those phone calls, so this, where we're at now is not a reflection of the fact that Dr. Nelms, that the board, that the community didn't do its job. Because I'm telling you, there was a lot of debate about whether we should do this next phase, right? This didn't just happen overnight. And I think what has happened now is not a reflection of people not doing their jobs, it's that teachers wanted to continue to do their jobs with their children. And that's natural. No one's arguing that point. But to your point, Commissioner Elliott, where I will agree with you on, is that in light of that, in light of the natural obstacles and understandable obstacles that occur when you have a K through 6 relationship, and those teachers want to continue to be with those children, we have to decide. And I'm not saying it's the right solution because I don't know what the unintended consequence, and we would have to do due diligence on this. If we cut off 6th grade at number 33 school, which would, by the way, would make it a smaller school because it is our largest elementary school, and let's be clear about this, they are struggling academically. So, and I'm not saying this is the way to go, but if we were to cut off 6th grade, that would end that conversation that those teachers naturally would feel they would have to have. Now, Dr. Nelms and other folks would have to make sure that there's natural transitions and teachers and relationships with students and so forth. But I just want to make clear, because it didn't happen. Matter of fact, this started under Linda Simmons. And there were multiple meetings, not only of board members and this board, but community members, teachers, parents, and it didn't happen because I think the natural relationships that we all value between the teachers and those students. Commissioner Shepard?
Yeah, I know I wasn't around when this stuff came up, but I wanted to encourage both of the superintendents that when you're getting together talking about this, to really understand that if it's just not gonna work, to feel comfortable with coming back with that recommendation to say that we should just move in a different direction. Because I know that there's going to be resources and other things that are spent with trying to figure out what parents want, and we don't need to continue down this road if it's just not gonna work, because I'm looking at the numbers for 7th grade too. I mean, they're just as low. So I just want to encourage both of you or the team, whoever gets together, that if that's an option, please feel encouraged to let us know.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
And to Commissioner Shepard's point, I think that we have to be honest about that. Whether it's going to work or not, we have to just say it is or it is not working, and then we have to move on. But let me just say to, I think the Deputy Superintendent mentioned, or maybe, Sean, maybe you mentioned, I'm sorry, that we've had 3 different Deputy Superintendents. And so in this district, we have an issue of stability and leadership. There's just a lot of instability in our leadership. And so I think that has a lot to do with us moving forward. But I think now that we are, I don't know how many years into this, 3, 4 years into it, we can reflect back. And that's what I'm doing. I'm reflecting back that we need to look at, we have to have genuine conversations with the 33 school staff, and then to see if, they really are on board with this. And they could come and I'd offer them to come and share that with us. And then what do we do from there? Because if the numbers are low, maybe we need to look at a different concept.
Commissioner Funches?
One last thing. However we choose to move forward, let us do it all the way. My thing is, if we talk about cut bait and run, we can't cut bait and run if it's not, because what I'm hearing is this has not been properly implemented. So we can't make an assessment on something that wasn't done right from jump. So if we do it and we properly implement it with all the things that need to be put in, and we look at our data and we have our relationship, we do it, and it doesn't work, then let's cut bait. But let's not be because one of the challenges we have, and I've seen it, and I saw this as a community member, and now I'm seeing it from the dais, is that we get scared and we cut bait and run before we give things an adequate chance to be totally implemented, to get proper data to see if something's going to work. So if we gonna do it, let's do it all the way. That's all I'm gonna say.
Commissioner
I just have one last point, because I do want to talk about, to follow up with what Commissioner Shepard said about the percentage for the 7th grade. It was a lower percentage. It was like 12% versus 15% for the 6th grade. So I know that there's a lot of arguments about 6th grade right now and not maybe having 2 6th grades in 2 schools. But I need to understand what happened at 7th grade. So I'm interested in that data too, and what parents were presented as options for 7th grade, because it's almost like that number should definitely be much, much higher if we have this collaboration. So I could see 6th grade parents not wanting to let go, but for 7th grade, I'm interested to know where those kids went.
A lot of discussion that we just need to have on
Yeah.
this. We really need to have some very reflective, and root kind of discussion about this.
Beth, I don't know if you can give a brief answer to that question, but I think it is probably about time to move on.
We can go on the
ahead.
question log. I'll give it to Shanae.
Oh,
No, we will follow up and decide where we want to report out about our progress as we go, which might be another way to go as well as we get to a decision. I do want to thank again Dr. Ellison for his hard work. I know his voice hasn't been up here, but it is a lot of his work with his kids, so I want to thank him for being here tonight and sharing and working with me and Lauren as we tried to pull this together. So that was it. I have one more clarification for my last comment earlier.
What's that?
Can I clarify a
Oh, yeah,
data
go
point?
ahead, yeah.
Okay, so I'm done with the 33 piece in the East. But I do want to clarify about the data point about the Ls. My takeaway is I need to go back and review the data sources, but IAT is at 24.6% of Ls. So there was some miscommunication on the data, which I will go back and check. But it is 24.6% of Ls at IAT. So where the error occurred, I will follow up on.
So to wrap up, thank you, Beth, but to wrap up the conversation about 33 and East, I think this was a very good conversation. I'm glad we had it. Obviously, you've given us a lot to think about, and we hope we've given you some stuff to think about. If you could, you got 4 weeks, report back again, let us know what your thoughts are, and I'm sure, again, you'll give consideration to everything that everybody said here. You had a number of board members say, hey, just let us know. And there are options. One of the options could be we just don't do it. Or an option could be we do it differently. Or we stay the course and be diligent about it. So thank you very much. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I just have some questions to addendum to the superintendent's report, if
Sure.
I may. And Madam Superintendent, I forgot to reach out to you about this one, but I was going down University Avenue, and I come across that there are 3 police cars sitting in front of School 58. One with siren, the lights flashing. Well, you know, I got triggered, so I started calling people. I have a problem. And then when I talked with, I think, the assistant principal, because I was shook by that you got 3 police cars. This is around 11:30, 12 o'clock. What are they doing at a school where one of the highest performing school or the second highest performing school? And why are they there? But they said to me that they were there just checking in. Well, I don't get that. Why are you just checking in? And it triggered it because I remembered we had a leadership meeting there when one of the SOs was doing a search on a student, a young female student. The problem I have is that's one of the highest performing schools. They're not getting it into a lot of trouble. And for us, there were 3 police cars that were out there. That shook me. And I let them know that I got shook. And I apologize because I didn't have a chance to talk to you about that. But I'm sharing that with you, and you can follow up on that. Because to the board, you know, we're looking at how do we reduce the number of police that are in our schools. And that being a high-performing school, it doesn't make sense to me. It's because they're not having the kind of suspension issues as other schools may have. So that's one thing. And then, you know, I talked with you about it just a little bit. The chairperson of the CET team at School 9 said to me that when a kindergartner loses a book, that they cannot check out a book for their entire school career. And even if the parent paid for the book, they still cannot take out a book. And I'm told that that's a practice in the district. So I'm asking that be looked at. It brought tears to my eyes when I heard that. See, part of the issue is not our children. The issue is our systems in this district. And that's School 9, so you could check that out. The community engagement team brought that to my attention, that's what's being done. And so I was heartbroken when I heard that. Now, I'm hoping that that's not a practice throughout the district, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. So I don't know where the root of that is, but that's what I've been told. And so I'm asking Madam Superintendent and the Deputy Superintendent to take a look into that. And then I also got a text from Archie Allen, who said to me that we have our City School District student who, as a result of the HBCU fair, received a full scholarship to Tuskegee University, so I wanted to share that.
All right.
And he believes that there are more, so as we find out more about that, I will report that. And then lastly, I just want to thank the HCI team for coming out to Baden Street and meeting with the executive staff. One of the things that this board is aggressively requesting is that we have diversity in our staff. And to Harry's credit, I think they went to the Urban League and they also went to ABC, and then they came to Baden. And so we're very happy. We're looking forward to a partnership with HCI so that we can get more diverse candidates. One of the things I thought about, Harry, was, and Madam Superintendent, is, you know, in that area, we have so many residents without a high school diploma. And as you all indicated, you can, you know, become a laborer and not having to have a high school diploma. Once they get in, and then, of course, the generous benefits, and then once they get in, you know, the hope is that they would say, well, let me go farther. Let me get my high school diploma. Let me go and get my associate's degree. Let me just move up, because they now have opportunities. So I'm looking forward to the fact that that may be a promise in them moving forward in their lives, and thus changing the trajectory of that northeast section of Rochester. So thank you for attending. So I just wanted to add those things to your report. Thank you.
So I did want to address the book thing. I think we have a good sense of where that came from. When you spend a week with principals at PELP, it's a good opportunity to get to hear some things that you might not otherwise hear. So apparently there is a level of handbooks in this district that sits somewhere between board policy, superintendent regulations, in the hands of the principals in the buildings. And we have seen now with this situation and the attendance situation that those books need some revision. So again, I just have to say that when people see things that make absolutely no sense, don't support children in the way that the philosophies and the direction of this district are moving, we need to have staff call, and we may have to take the at your service line and the whistleblower line directly out to staff so that they know when principals see those things that they know that they should report them. I think there's an assumption that some of this longstanding practice is well known, and it simply is not. And while it may be well-intentioned to get money for lost books, I can think of other ways to replenish libraries. So thank you for bringing that up, because I was absolutely outraged when I heard it.
Thank you.
All right, there is no PAC report, I'm told. So we'll move on to the consideration of resolutions.
Committee reports.
I'm sorry, that's right.
Yeah.
Committee reports, I apologize. And I'll lead by example. We're trying to move the schedule along as best as possible. I have my president's report here, and I appreciate Dr. Lee for preparing it, but I'm going to make sure that it gets emailed to everybody, and I will rely on my written report for you all to review at your leisure. So we'll begin with Vice President Powell.
I believe that my Finance Committee report is on board docs. I don't know if anyone has read it in advance of this meeting, but we have some important work coming to us from East High. They have presented for, well, I was going to say for our information, memorandums of understanding with ASAR, Bente, RAP, and RTA, specific modifications to their contract for East, you know, because they have the longer school day, the greater commitment. In the Finance Committee, it was asked that the board ratify those agreements. Summaries of those agreements have also been made available on board docs. And if a ratification is in fact what's required, I would make a motion at this time that we ratify those memorandums of agreement.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second. I'm gonna.
Wait.
Okay.
Wait. Now that it's been moved and seconded, there's opportunity for discussion. Yes, Commissioner LeBron.
So my only concern is that I checked board docs last night. I didn't personally see this on board docs last night, and I am not comfortable voting on anything that has to do with increasing costs without fully understanding it. So that's just me. So if you guys vote I'm going to abstain from voting on this one for those reasons.
Well, here's the reality. You can't abstain for voting.
Then it's a no for me.
No,
Oh,
wait. Just let me finish.
Okay.
The rules are you can't abstain for voting because you don't like a particular piece of legislation. You can only do that if you have some financial interest. Those are the rules. Now, that doesn't mean that in my mind, I'm just speaking for myself, you have not presented a legitimate concern. And I too was a little bit concerned about the timing of this. I know it was properly vetted through finance, but it does have some implications that relate to financing. So I sort of did my own little homework in advance, and I've spoken to a few people. And Dr. Nelms, you correct me if I'm wrong on this. If we didn't vote on it today because some members perhaps weren't feeling comfortable that they fully understood it, would that be a problem?
I think the only problem would be that.
I'm sorry, Dr. Nelms. Sean, you have to take the mic.
Was this on board? Okay.
So there's a couple things. First, the resolutions at each of the bargaining units had to have renegotiations by the end of third year. That was part of the agreement with the EPL. It's a 3-year, three-year agreement, then they get a chance to negotiate again for the 3 years. So most of the resolutions are cost neutral. There's some savings in one and a slight increase of about $4,000 in the other. Just we can talk in executive about those specifics and how that's calculated. But if it's not passed tonight, it just means that payroll will have to do checks retro, make adjustments in payroll, which is not a small thing for all the employees impacted by the
Now, let me ask you, Commissioner LeBron, is it something you think could be discussed in executive session? Because it might go into some detail that we would not, these are contract negotiations, which we could not discuss publicly. Or are your concerns such that you need to have some more time to look at this?
I feel personally I need more time. I like to read everything, Sean. I just want to throw this out there. And while I'm not saying I don't trust your word or anybody's word, I like to read for myself, ask my own questions and process it. And it wasn't in board docs last night. So if this was vetted in finance, then it should have been presented in board docs at least 24 hours before this meeting for me. And it wasn't. So I just want to throw that out there.
Nobody's accusing anybody of anything.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling Sean that I'm not accusing him.
We're just trying to get through this. So Sean, you presented the challenges that you might have, and it would be retroactive
What
checks.
I would say is, again, and I may have erred on this. I thought if we went through finance and it gets vetted there were some questions that were there, that they answered. We got a list of questions. We wrote a response.
4 of us may be okay with it.
Commented there. Then that's what we did. So I thought tonight would be, I communicated to those bargaining units that it would go through finance and the vote would come tonight. I can email those bargaining units and say that there's a delay. But that's just, it'll still be a communication piece would be a downside. There'll be something associated with payroll. Payroll's already anticipating, based on the finance committee's conversation, that this was going to be presented to the board tonight. And they started doing some work on the back channels. But I mean, whatever decision is made by the board, I'll accept. But
Vice President Powell, did you want to comment?
There are only 2 points in this, in the entire, do you all have this on your dais? On the back side are
This one, the one-sheeter?
Yeah, that's the one. If you look on the back side, and in red, you see there is an agreement to increase the stipend for ASAR members from 8% to 10%. That turns out to be 11 or 13? 11 individuals. 13 individuals, $11,000 increase. 11,000, tiny number, really. But if you look at RTA, the class size increase from 22 to 25. The downstream effect of increasing the class size from 22 to 25 could more than make up for that $11,000 increase.
The other piece too was
so
that
that's pretty much a wash. Most of these points are questions of having a seat at the table for instance, the interview process. Bente wants to have 1/3 of the interview team to be Bente members for a Bente position. Same with RTA. So many of these points are not financial in nature. They're relational.
Sean, were you going to add
No,
something?
that was it. And I was going to say the other financial piece for the RTA is that currently they have 10 summer PD
right.
days that's now 5.
So it's
there was
actually a
cost savings
savings.
there as well.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I just add, though, why it wasn't on board docs, though, before for us? Like, did you get it, Shanae, in time to? Okay, so I do want to go on the record and ask that we not operate this way. I'm just not comfortable, and I hear you, Willa, and I'm not saying that you guys didn't vet it
One person at a
properly.
time, let Beatrice finish.
I just want to say, it's not that I don't believe you guys vetted it properly through finance. I do believe that you guys did look at it and that, but I just have an issue with things coming in the day of that are extensive enough that do require some reading and potentially some follow-up questions before we get here. So I just ask that in the future, moving forward, if it goes through any committee, that it's going to come here and we have to vote, and it has to do, especially with money, that it is provided to Shanae Lee in time so that we have access to it minimally. Really, it should be a week at best, but minimally 24 hours. So I just want to add that for the record.
That's an absolutely fair point. I made a big assumption that because it had been through the Finance Committee, that it was available on board docs as my report would be. Is my report on board docs?
Yes.
Okay.
The finance is on there already.
It should have been right there with my report.
It wasn't.
And I apologize that it wasn't.
Okay,
I
thank you.
assumed a great deal, and mea culpa.
That's all I just wanted
Okay.
to see beforehand. Thank you.
So there is a
Any
motion
other
on the table.
questions or comments regarding Resolution 86? Is it 86, right?
Does
think
it
it's
have a
86.
resolution?
Is that right, Madam Clerk? It's 86. There being no further questions or comments, and there being no motion to put the matter, table the resolution, all those in favor of Resolution 86 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Beatrice?
Resolution 86.
No. I'm going to say yay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Yeah, that was,
Resolution 86.
it was 86.
Not a part of the packet.
That's the one we were just talking about.
Yeah, but that was not a part of the
In the future, I
I
would
think what Dr. Lee just said is she got the resolution.
Yes, so,
Yeah, she
yeah,
just
okay.
assigned
And
it
I-
the number 86.
All right.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, you caught that vote?
Yes.
Unanimous, okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Nelms, appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
There were a couple of vendor resolutions for East High. The Center for Youth were two of those resolutions, and a contract with, for professional development from East. We also had a handful of procurement and supply resolutions and final payments for facilities work already done, and quite a list of resolutions for architecture, engineering work for the upcoming capital improvement season. All of the resolutions were recommended for advancement to the full board. Now, in addition to the East High has two resolutions with the Center for Youth. We also, on the district, the rest of the district side, has a resolution with, I was going to say Center for Youth, but it's Hillside Work Scholarship. There were a number of questions from the committee around that, and the answers have been provided in terms of the number of students served. I think the questions came from Commissioner Shepard. Do you have, Commissioner Shepard, do you have this sheet here? You do? The sponsor of that resolution wasn't at our committee, so the follow-up questions were provided. But it was advanced, trusting that the answers would be forthcoming. So that's the Finance Committee report. We did not have monthly reports because of year-end. This is traditional. The June financial reports are also year-end, which the books aren't closed until, because it's year-end, and the numbers will be reflected in the CAFR. So we often get an unofficial year-end report in August, but we almost never have a report in July because they haven't closed the books yet. So there is no report for me to ask for your approval. Our next business, Finance Committee meeting is August 16th at 5:30.
Thank you, Vice President Powell. Commissioner Elliott?
The Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee met on July 12th. We are continuing our discussion around a community forum that we're looking to host in October. Sometime the topics that we're considering for this particular forum is the Code of Conduct and attendance, and we're still having some discussions around attendance. We also discussed hosting commissioner nights throughout the academic year. They will be in various locations in districts, quadrants, and to provide an opportunity for parents to attend. We talked about working very closely with school with the principals to ensure that the dates that we select are not in conflict with what they have going on for the year, and perhaps how we can also look at participating in those events. The next meeting, although I was trying to get us off for August, the next meeting of the Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee will be August 9th. Let me just say a couple of things. One is that I want to thank Communications Chief Carlos Garcia for meeting with me and talking about, with regard to our communications plan, how do we really begin, board members begin to connect with the community? Because the fact of the matter is that the community trusts us as opposed to others. And so how do we help to promote the message of literacy, for example, and other attendance and other issues, other things that we want to push, other things that we want to promote that will help towards the superintendent goals and that will help towards the board goals. So that's conversation that we are having at the moment. The next meeting is August 9th, and Carlos will attend that August 9th meeting. And just another point of personal privilege, I don't want everybody sitting down so you won't fall off your chairs when I say this. I just want to publicly thank Adam Urbanski.
What? Oh, look. Did I tell you? Oh, Elizabeth, it's a big one, honey.
Did I tell you?
Wait a minute, you gotta come down here.
I reached out to Adam, and he graciously agreed to meet with me. You know where we met, right? Uncle Mo's. So we met at Uncle Mo's. I shared with him, and we both agree that we see the social ills in our community because we have not educated Rochester's children. We see murders. We see children having children before they can be responsible for them. We see mental health issues. We see unemployment rates. And that's because we have failed them in providing our kids, our students, with a quality education. So we have both agreed that we will work together in ensuring that Rochester's children are educated. He was very adamant with me about if I see something that's out of line that I can call him on it. And so I just want to thank him publicly of this effort, and that we can be on the same page in educating our kids. He said to me, nobody disagrees my heart for children. He said that they may have an issue with how I say it, and I told him that's not going to change. That's not changing. So, but I just wanted to thank him publicly and look forward to a good working relationship with him. That's it, Mr. President.
All right.
That's great.
Thank you, Commissioner Elliott. Commissioner Funches?
My policy committee report is on board docs, and you can get it, so I'll let you see it there.
Commissioner Hallmark?
I apologize, the governance report is not on board docs. Dr. Lee's computers and mine were not talking to each other this afternoon very well, so I'll just do it real quick. Since governance report was not delivered last month, I'll report for both June and July. Governance Committee of the Whole met on June 11th to discuss the evaluation schedules for the superintendent board staff, the proposed 2018-19 board meeting calendar, topics for the retreat, scheduled for July 28, 2018, proposed professional development topics. During that meeting, we received a presentation on the FOIL law from our general counsel. Thank you very much. The committee met as a whole again on July 23rd in executive session to discuss the employment of a specific individual, and the board summer retreat has been planned in early August. Thanks, everyone.
I'm gonna keep it going. So, just a few things. The audit committee did not meet last month. However, I did meet with Anissa, and I did ask her to complete a full risk assessment report that will help us look at certain things that we will audit moving forward. So she's in the process of doing that, and I've requested that. And once I have that, I will make sure that the entire board gets it so that you guys understand where we will be moving forward in terms of audit. The bilingual summit for the parents, I just want to again remind folks, is August 25th here at the district. And also, I want to just add a question now to the question log before we move on to resolution, so that way I don't stop you guys and ask. I asked in the last question log, and I saw that it was answered about the special education positions being filled, but there's still coach position vacancies, case and the special behavioral positions that are missing from these resolutions. And again, you know, my question last month too was that it's July, August is rolling around, and then before we know it, it's September. And so these are critical positions that we're gonna really make an impact on special education moving forward that are filled and were budgeted for in the budget as part of the, my own issues with the budget. But I just wanna make sure that that question is officially documented in the question log and when we expect to see some those positions hired. Thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Shepherd.
The ESA committee, we did meet on Tuesday, July 10th, and the report is on board docs. So I would like to refer all my colleagues to board docs so we can have it emailed to you to read the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Shepherd. Now we're going to move on to the consideration of resolutions. Can I get a motion to discuss resolution 4 through 19?
So moved.
Commissioner Funches has moved. Vice President Elliott, Vice President Powell has seconded that motion. Any questions or conversations regarding resolutions 4 through 19? Yes, Commissioner Shepherd?
Yes, I wanted to just get a little bit of insight on Dr. James Wilson and how often she's going to be in the schools or working with staff.
It's a summer thing. Number 9.
So she is slated to do summer PD with staff, and then she meets with a group of teachers, I believe it's bi-weekly, looking at their lesson curriculum design lessons, but also doing work around coach-responsive education globally as well. So I can get you the exact number of dates and times, but her work begins this summer. Actually, she was here also last year, and we reduced her contract by about $40,000. Because her work has shifted, but it's going to maintain focus with a group of individuals, mostly focused in the literacy areas. If you want the exact number, I can provide that too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions or comments? There being no further questions or comments, all those in favor of resolutions 4 through 19, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposition?
Yeah, no to 17 and 18.
Got that, Madam Clerk?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to skip over Resolution 20 because we're going to talk about that in executive session. I need a motion over to discuss Resolutions 21 through 42.
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Hallmark. Any questions or comments regarding Resolutions 21 through 42? There being no questions or comments, all those in favor of Resolutions 21 through 42, Human Capital Initiative, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? I next need a motion to discuss resolutions 43 to 48, additional pay resolutions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Powell, seconded by Commissioner Funchess. Any questions or comments regarding resolutions 43 through 48? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I gotta throw this out there because I've asked repeatedly that we not vote and that staff not present us with pay rate of one of whatever percentage that individual is making, because I have no idea what that individual is making and what we're actually paying them. So I was told that that new procedure would start July, and it's July, and we still are using 1/300th, 1/220th of different individuals who could really very well be at different pay brackets. So again, I just want actual salaries and numbers.
Commissioner LeBron, I saw that email of yours probably within the last week, and I did forward it and say, hey, listen, let's get this answered or resolved right away. So I assume you have an answer for us?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, Everton.
Hi. We got the information and we worked on it, and we have, it's not in that packet, but what we did, we took all the resolution and ran a supplemental packet with all the rates in them. So this is for each of the commissioners.
Thank you. I just asked though that moving forward,
Yes.
that it's actually in the resolution so we know, what folks are getting paid. Thank
So
you.
Everton, will you do
Thank you,
that
Everton.
going forward in the
Yes,
resolutions
we will.
going forward?
Yes, we will make sure that it's a part of our process as we.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any further questions or comments regarding resolutions 43 through 48?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
For resolution number 46, I wanted to know how many parents were signed up for this? On page 41, resolution 46.
Oh, it starts on 41, 42. The Title I grant?
Shirley here?
Yeah. Shirley?
Shirley.
I will talk to the principal and get the exact number of parents for you.
Okay, thank you, Shirley.
Any other questions regarding 43 to 48? There being no further questions or comments, all those in favor of resolutions 43 to 48, additional pay resolutions, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
No, to all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I need a motion to discuss budget resolutions 49.
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hallmark, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Elliott. Any questions or comments regarding resolution 49? There being no questions or comments, all those in favor of resolution 49 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Can I get a motion to discuss resolutions 50 to 53?
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Elliott, procurement and supply. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
By Vice President Elliott. Any questions or comments regarding resolutions 50 to 53?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Okay,
Elliott.
I have actually, I have a number of questions, but
Yes, ma'am.
what is in resolution 50, what does the term afforded preferred?
Afforded preference.
Excuse me, yes. I think I've got something listed different here, but yes, afforded preference. What does that statement mean?
It basically means that the,
Commissioner Elliott, Vice President
Powell.
Powell, remember, we're going to try. I appreciate your institutional knowledge. It's truly amazing. But we gotta have our
57.
57.
either Tim Schmidt or Everton.
50, yeah. Yeah, under the
Tim
second
Schmidt's
whereas
not
it
here.
says afforded preference.
Our purchasing director is not here, but as he explained when we were in finance, I can get the exact definition, but what he was saying is that that vendor, even though we have other vendors, that was a vendor that was preferred, based upon the affordability. It's not that all the time we get the lowest bid. We take the bid that is low but affordable to give us the best price. GML says that you always have to try and go for the lowest price, but there are times the lowest price is not the best.
I thought the
quality.
term was like the lowest qualified. Isn't the term qualified used in that? Something to that.
Lowest responsible bidders.
Responsible, right, but I'll have to get the definition for that and get that to you.
The difference here is in some of the purchasing contracts, like with textbooks, we're not getting a a fixed price for the item, we're getting a % off the catalog price. And that generates different language in the resolution, because we're not looking at the lowest, like the lowest responsible bidder or the lowest bid.
Right.
We're looking at the lowest % off of retail.
That could also be preferential treatment.
Right. I'll get the correct definition and get that to you tomorrow.
And you made, this from my friend back there, question on 51. This is around the agricultural, the food.
Yes.
Explain what we're doing here. Or can you do it?
No.
51?
Deli.
Buying ham and cheese.
Oh, they usually are also. Food purchases.
Right. So the district's processed food commodities. I'm Ray Meyer. I'm the. I apologize. Ray Meyer. A little bit.
Be nervous.
The purchasing agent for food services. So the district's been processing commodities, chicken, beef, cheese, and other items for about 6 or 7 years that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So over that time, they've used just assume the state's processing contracts to process those items with process that are approved in New York State.
By the state?
By the state.
Okay.
So the way it works is the state, the USDA, and the processors have the contracts with each other.
Who are the processors?
Like Rich's, Schwann's, Tyson.
Oh, the food companies?
The food companies.
Okay, all right, okay.
They process the government commodities for us. So what ends up happening is about 24 months ago, they started to enforce procurement regulations that would normally be part of normal government procurement, where we couldn't just use those state contracts anymore. They wanted us to go out and procure, bid out, for lack of a better word, with those commodity processors to make it a fair procurement. And that's what this process is to put us in compliance with the new enforcement that the state and the USDA has put in place.
Also, Commissioner Elliott, you may remember this term. In the past, and we still do that, you can piggyback a contract, which is what was happening. You could just take the contract and piggyback off it, but they have changed that and says, no, you can't just go out and piggyback anymore. You have to go out and bid the service to see if the piggybackable contract that is out there is the best price. Because you can go negotiate, and even though a piggyback contract is out there, if you go and negotiate, you may get a better price.
But it's within the confines of the state and the USDA?
General municipal law, yes.
All right.
But they just don't want us to go find a contract that you can piggyback on. They want you to do the process of bidding, because once you bid and you get a lower price, that's the new price that people can now piggyback off.
Okay,
So
all right. Okay, and then I have a question around, I don't think it's for you all. This is about book purchase, resolution 52.
Sir, nice meeting you.
Yes, welcome, thank you.
No reason to be nervous here.
We won't bite.
It didn't
We may
hurt this
growl, but
time.
we don't bite.
Don't listen to the rumors.
It's nice meeting you.
Yeah. 52, and I'm just sort of, this is just a general question. If this purchase is necessary, the reason I say that is, a couple of things is, and I remember when Dr. Vargas was here, he went over to, I think it was Wilson High School, commencement, and saw books just in the library, you know, not distributed or anything. So do we really need to have these books? That's, the chair of the community engagement team also mentioned that there were new books around that weren't being used. I just don't want us to spend money, and that's been a historical issue, that we have spent money on books and not used them. And that's the conversation in the community, that we get these books, kids can't take the books home, they only get a sheet, a copied sheet of the book, and can't take them home, but then they're sitting around. So do we really need to purchase these books? My vote is probably going to be no, unless somebody can give me an answer as to if we need to purchase it, because I don't want books just to be sitting around. Somebody want to get back?
President, right?
I probably would vote no, but I would like an answer to that.
Yeah. If you could give us a brief answer, that'd be great.
Oh, it's going to be brief. Commissioner, if I will personally go and look at the libraries to make sure that books are on shelves, because our kids need to have books.
Amen.
Okay.
Commissioner.
It was brief.
Yeah.
Commissioner LeBron and Commissioner Shepard.
So my questions are around the same thing, one with the calculators, but also the books and where they're going to be distributed. So I did hear back from some teachers over at Edison that they didn't have books for the influx of Latinos that came in this school year. And they didn't have any bilingual books or Spanish materials for these students. So they sat from January through the end of the school year with no access to any materials in their language, and literally no educational materials. So I would be curious to also know, I do think we need books, but I would like to know where they're going and if there's bilingual books put in place, and also where the calculators are going, because it's an odd purchase, but I know we'll need it, so throwing it out there.
Commissioner Shepard.
Yeah, mine were going to be along the lines of, I just want to make sure that if we're going to be spending this amount of money, if we can have a good variety of books that promote diversity, because I see that they're probably going to be spread out throughout the libraries. So I just wanted to make sure that I think we should invest in books, and just to make sure that we're doing those types of purchases.
Let me just say, those are great questions, but I've heard them asked before, and then they just sort of go into Never Never Land. There's got to be some way to sort of follow up on them.
They're going in the question log.
Okay.
Right, Shanae? Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am, and then
all
I will
right,
make sure
all right,
they were
all right.
answered. If they're not, we'll keep asking.
So, but the question log, I don't know that can really get at this, because this is an issue that we've been dealing with for years. And I think the question about procurement of books, the type of books, whether they're diverse, you can put it on the question log, but I actually think a better opportunity, I'll give up my time on my president's report for the next board meetings. I think you all need to present on that subject.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would not want to just see it put on a question log. So we'll find an appropriate time, and if it has to be at the next board meeting during my president's report, that's fine. Vice President Powell.
Okay, this particular textbook, this particular book vendor provides paperback books for English lit classes, for example. Kids take home individual copies of To Kill a Mockingbird and Catcher in the Rye and whatever books have been assigned by the classroom teachers. So this contract, by and large, replaces lost and damaged books through. Most of these are, your standard publishers like Penguin Books, right? And it doesn't get to the question that Commissioner LeBron asked about texts for Spanish language speakers or foreign language speakers. This contract previously had been successfully bid by Liftbridge in Brockport. It was put out for RFP again this year after several extensions. This particular firm underbid Liftbridge on the percentage of reduction off catalog price. But these aren't textbooks per se. They're the paperback books that kids take home for their English lit classes throughout from 7th grade through 12th grade.
you know, again, we've had this conversation, and I know, Vice President Powell, you've been part of those conversations. This is a very, I don't want to say complicated such that it can't be resolved, but this is a very complex issue. It involves the textbook industry that is by and large, as I understand it, because we've had hearings on this in Texas, and they control the content of material. So while you may be right, even though, Commissioner Powell, this may be about replacing textbooks, what textbooks are they replacing? Are they replacing with Catcher in the Rye or something else?
I hope they replace
Right. So my point is, there's probably literature that we're probably replacing books, but they're probably replacing it with the same old, which would be my guess, and I could be wrong about that. So what I'm thinking about, well, I was saying not the question log, I was thinking of a presentation by the administration about how books are procured. A matter of fact, I remember hearing that there's a textbook committee.
Textbook production committee.
But I think all of us could use a refresher course on that and find out how books are purchased by this district and who's doing the purchasing.
And where are they going?
Commissioner Hallmark?
Sounds like it's less about a procurement question and more about curriculum and, you know, connecting it to align it with what we're wanting the kids to be reading.
Right.
Commissioner Funches?
That was what I wanted to say, is that this is not just about a procurement, it's about what are our children learning and how are we using literature to foster our children seeing themselves in the learning. So can we, as we're looking at this and we're looking at people providing things to us, we also need to look to make sure that people providing can provide culturally responsive things to us, but make sure that our teachers in our curriculum are reflecting, using materials that reflect our kids.
Like getting rid of the To Kill a Mockingbird.
And a few others,
All right,
and a few others.
I'm sensitive about that, but we'll debate that later.
Because of the
All right,
lawyer.
so,
Right.
any other questions or comments regarding resolutions 50 through 53?
And just for
Yes, ma'am.
53, now is this the total, we're not using all of these companies at one time, correct? We're just, the initial contract was for 116,000. That's total for all of the companies that we use?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that's it.
Any other questions or comments? There being no further questions or comments, all those in favor of resolutions 50 to 53 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Next, I need a motion to discuss resolutions 54 through 70.
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Elliott, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Funches. Any questions or
Wait,
comments?
which ones?
54 through 70.
Oh, okay.
Final payment.
Any further questions?
Yeah,
or-
Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am.
I
All right, why don't we start down here and work our way back?
Okay, so this is gonna be pretty general. There are a number of resolutions through here that just raise a big concern for me in regards to I know we have a responsible bidders policy that's very specific on how we choose our vendors. And I was just a little alarmed to know that we are still conducting business with some companies that have not been completely ethical. And so I really want us to take a look at how we are keeping contracts with certain contractors based off of the policy that we have on the books. And so I have spoken to Commissioner Funches to make sure that this policy is going to be brought up in the August meeting, because we really need to have a discussion around the finances that we're doing in our district and how it aligns with our ethics and our morals as a district. And I also want to know how we've continued to do business with certain companies based off of the very explicit, specific language in our policy that it seems to contradict.
So I would like to add to that. So I second what Commissioner Shepard is saying. And also, you know, it's my understanding, like with Medicaid billing, when you work for a nonprofit, if someone did some defraud in Medicaid, whether they pay the fine or not, moving forward, you would never be able to do business with that company if they had a charge of defrauding Medicaid. And so it's my understanding that the language in our policy was very similar, but if they paid the fine, then here they are, they're showing up on some resolutions. So I will be voting no on these resolutions. I want to put that out there now.
Commissioner Hallmark, were you gonna? No?
Yeah.
Commissioner Elliott?
Just on all of those resolutions.
Excuse me?
Oh, no, I didn't know you had raised your hand. I just
Yes.
saw, I was looking down there. I apologize. All right, I'm sorry. You challenged optically. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I just want to piggyback on what my other commissioners have said and want to make sure that we bring this to the fore because we have, as all things we do with children, and we being the stewards of children, everything we're doing is modeling and teaching. And if we're saying that we want to live in integrity, you know, in what we do, we need to demand that of all the people that we do work with. And once someone has shown us that they do not operate in integrity, we must live in integrity and continue to not associate with them because we are teaching our children. This is, I mean, there's a very concrete thing, but there's also a moral, ethical thing about how do we operate as a district and what are we teaching our children in the way that we operate, because everything we do as the adults in the lives of children is modeling and teaching, whether it is in the books and the education or the buildings that they sit in. We need to make sure that all of those things reflect our values as an organization. And that's what I want to say about that.
Commissioner Elliott?
Resolutions 65 through 70, I would like to be able to know if they are, if the MWBE award were to women or were they to businesses of color. So somebody can get back to me on that information, whether they were women or businesses of color.
Commissioner Vice President Powell?
Yeah, regarding the matter that was raised by the first three of my colleagues, I had sent a voice message, I left a voice message to Mr. President to ask if we could discuss the status of contractors vis-a-vis our responsible bidder policy in executive session. But these resolutions are final payments.
Mm-hmm.
They basically, we're being asked to honor commitments already made and services already rendered. But I do think that it's a really valid and important question for us to raise, but I think of necessity it has to be in executive session.
But that, just for clarity's sake, that does not involve, you're saying 54 through 70 involve final payments. These contracts have already been awarded.
54, 5, 6.
Some of them.
Some of the ones in question are final payments. The vendors for architecture are not the vendors that were reported in the news article.
Okay.
Can I? Commissioner Powell, while I understand that these were for final payments, and I, as a woman of integrity and one who chooses to operate in integrity, believes that a workman is worthy of their hire, it is also through my integrity that I would like to put forward that that we wanted to speak this out publicly, because we want to say that, you know, I don't know how we got here, because this predates me, but I want to make sure that going forward, that it's on the record publicly, that we will operate in integrity and make sure that we do something. Because it's not that we necessarily have a policy that even needs to be really updated. We have a policy that is crystal clear about how this is supposed to happen. And I don't know how we got here, but what I know is that how we're going to move forward. So I do understand that this is final payment. I am fully aware of that. But we want to act on a matter of principle to say how we will move forward as a body of integrity moving forward.
And
Commissioner Elliott?
Well, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm totally with you on that. My understanding, and this is why the conversation will have to continue on in executive session, is that there were terms of agreement made that didn't include a review of our policy on responsible bidder. And I'd like to get a legal update on that aspect of it. I don't believe for 1 minute that our people went out of their way to violate our policy on responsible bidders. And I agree with you that our policy is crystal clear.
Commissioner Elliott?
Let me just follow up to what's been said by Commissioner Funchess and others. I know when I first got here 12 years or so ago, I had been asking questions around this whole process. And let me just say, when I start asking questions, people in the community are saying, they're not, what I was getting from the people who were saying to me is that because I've started to ask questions, people are paying closer attention and not doing anything unethical. So the mere fact that this board is asking those questions helps to keep others on their toes, that they just can't get away with taking the taxpayers' dollars without doing it ethically. So people know when we begin to ask those questions. As I said, I asked those questions. I heard in the community that people stopped doing some things because those questions was being asked. So I think we have to continue to ask those questions.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Shepard.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up to what Vice President Powell was saying. So I'm not assuming that any of our staff have done anything that did not speak to high integrity, because I don't know what happened, and so that's why I'm bringing it up. And so if we do move forward to an executive session, then that might lead to some updates or upgrades to the actual policy that we have on books, so that we are paying closer attention, so that we are staying in line with the policies that we do have on. So I would like to know what happened, and so we can rectify it in the future. I know it happened before my time as well, so I just want to make sure that the administration knows that. It's not a slam on the administration. I know you work hard, but I do want to know what happened so that we can move forward correctly.
Absolutely.
Any further comments regarding resolutions 54 through 70? All right, all those in favor of resolutions 54 through 70, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You guys split them up. Sorry, guys.
No, you could just vote no to certain one.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to vote no then to,
Just, okay.
so go ahead, Shanae.
So all those in favor of resolutions 54 through 70, say aye.
Aye.
And now express any nays.
Thank you. Resolution 55, it's a no for me. Resolution 57, 58. Those are all no for me.
All right, you recorded that, Madam Clerk? Yes. Any other nays? All right, we got it. Okay, I need a motion to discuss resolution 71 through 85.
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Hallmark, seconded by Commissioner Funchess. Any questions or comments regarding those resolutions?
Mr. President, I have a
Yes,
question
ma'am.
on Resolution 73, police at sports events.
Okay.
So is there somebody that can speak to that? What sport events are they at?
Yeah, Mike Schmidt's not here today.
Every 10.
This is Mike's.
Yeah, it was. It's an operations.
While I am not the person responsible for
Who is the
athletics,
person responsible?
Carlos Codas, but because we discussed this in finance, so we got the background when we discussed it, so I can speak to that. And this is for service when we are having certain sports, like when our teams make it to certain sectionals, and we're having sport event, basketball, football, where we have had history of violence happening at these events. We've had situations where police had to be called in. So we have this contract with the city of Rochester to provide security, police force at these events. That number is the high range, and that's because in the event our teams make it to certain finals, then the amount of individuals that we attract gets larger. So for the past year, many of our teams made it into sectional finals, so there were events that happened in Rochester that we had the security there. Also, what was mentioned is that because it's open up to the public, we have to be very careful and not. The question came up whether or not we should be looking at other security measures, but because these fields and these property belongs to the city, we have form a collaboration with the city to use the police forces on these.
Thank you.
So that. Yep, Commissioner Shepard.
And I just wanted to follow up, Commissioner Elliott, because I asked the questions in finance, specifically around us being able to use our SSOs more. But I am going to go ahead and support this for this year. But Mike did say that him and the administration, they would follow up to see what the actual needs are, if we can minimize it, and if there are certain like schools that may have a high elevated need for RPD, then we would go that route. So they are going to be looking at that. So, and I specifically brought you up because I know you've been trying to scale back on RPDs. So that's what prompted me. So I got you back.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding Resolution 71 through 85? There being no further questions or comments, all those in favor of Resolution 71 through 85, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, let's next move on to unfinished business from previous meeting. Two things I want to talk about really quickly. I just want to reference it. I looked at the question log. It indicated, because I had asked a question about Hillside Work Scholarship Connection, what are their graduation rates? I noticed it used the phrase retained students. So sort of question included in a comment. The retained student graduation rate is pretty high, much higher than the district's. I think if you look at the question log, it's like 80-something%, pretty impressive. But the comment is, well, if we only counted retained students, we do good too. I love Hillside. I was on the board of governors for Hillside. But I would like to know what their graduation rate is as compared to with the similar analysis that we give for our students. In other words, we have to include students who've dropped out and gone off the map. So I would like to know, and again, you guys did exactly what I asked you to do, but I want to know what their, I'm going to call it, for lack of a better phrase, their true graduation rate is, right? I think that would be helpful to know that. Because again, so it's a matter of return on investment. What are we getting? And I would guess it's probably still better than ours. But I want to know what their true graduation rate, because I don't consider this retained students a true graduation rate.
TGR, huh?
What's that?
TGR.
What's TGR?
True graduation rate.
There you go. All right, so, and the next issue for unfinished business, really quickly, we don't have to resolve it today, but I want to thank, I think Francine was involved in this, Dr. Lee was involved with this, anybody else that I should thank? The travel log? Excellent job getting us additional information. I'm just going to comment quickly. I don't know if anybody has a comment. I noticed that, again, I was required to attend a executive committee meeting in Anchorage, Alaska. It wasn't really where I wanted to go, but I was required as a member of the Council of Great City Schools to attend. I'm at $2,500, right? And I wanted to note that those of us who serve in these capacities often have to make these trips. So the only other thing I'm scheduled to go to, although I'd like to go to a lot of this other stuff, is the Council of Great City Schools conference in Baltimore, which is priced out at, where did I see that? $2,000. So I'd be way above. So I think this is a good exercise. It forces us to think about for those of you who don't know, we're looking at our own travel budget and what the implications would be if we cut it back or maybe even expand it. So those are my comments. Anybody else?
Are we going to be voting on this? We need to have a final decision for the staff and we need to look at the money. And right now, we were approximately budgeted for $20,000, and if everybody did these trips, we're at $39,000. I mean, I don't want to preach fiscal responsibility to the district and the staff and then ignore ourselves. I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, and I have no problem us reaching some kind of decision, but we have to dialogue about it. And so I began the dialogue by saying, hey, listen, when we take this into account, understand that and I'm not looking for an exemption. If you all tell me withdraw from Council of Great City Schools as part of the steering committee,
or pay for your own, right?
Or pay for my own, that could be a possibility. But let me just say, to keep it real, I'm not doing this because I wanted to go to Anchorage, Alaska, or Baltimore, no offense.
I hear you, man,
and this is part of the discussion. So when you say, let's make a decision, well, you have to have a conversation about it. And one of the realities is that we are members of these organizations. And most people will tell you, I'm just speaking to my issue here, there are organizations that are very important to the vitality of this organization. And most people out there know that Council, and I'm just speaking about my thing, Council of Great City Schools is a very, very, very powerful organization. They have the hookup to the White House. And I'm talking about the Barack Obama White House, but they're very, very powerful organization.
I'm like, I ain't even there, listen.
But
Trump ain't gonna help us,
even
right?
in our meeting, in our steering committee meeting, they have regular contact with, and you may not want it, but Secretary DeVos. So my point is, when we have this conversation, we got to take that into account too. So I was just starting off the conversation. Yep.
So this could be lengthy, and could I suggest that we move this to the Finance Committee?
Well, see, they've got to, here's the thing, they've got to make a decision.
Yeah.
You can speak into the mic if you can.
Let me turn this, I rarely get a chance to turn my microphone on. But we are looking for a decision on this tonight, actually. Simply because with the travel plans that are anticipated for September and October, though, if we have all of the commissioners that have expressed an interest in those conferences, attend the conferences, we would have to look at moving the business meeting dates. Also, as we wait, the registration fees for the different conferences and professional development opportunities increase. So, and some of them are noted. We have a fee increase on the 18th of August. We also have some fee increases for, well, we've actually passed the mark with our September conference dates. So I'm looking for a decision from the board tonight on how you all wish to move forward.
So let me just continue the conversation by saying one of the ways we could do this is literally go through this item by item, and we could do it personally. I could say, listen, I'm required to go to this Council of Great City Schools meeting in Baltimore. Barbara's looking to see if the registration is waived. It may be because I'm on the steering committee and she's a superintendent. But I'll start by saying, okay, I'll drive there and I'll pay for my hotel. It may be Super 8, but I'll do that. So we can't even do this on our current, even if we were going to increase our budget, we can't increase our budget to $39,000.
No.
So somebody, to talk about solutions, somebody needs to start talking about what they're going to do. I've told you what I'm going to do.
Well, I think that, other boards do say, we can't all go to a conference, so we should pick and choose, and spread it across the years and make compromises here. So, for those that you're required to go to, I get that. But, like NISBA here, we have 5 people listed who have expressed an interest, but maybe we can cut that down.
Can I just, so I just want to say, these are conversations that we have been having. So this is not the first time we're actually talking about this. This is just, we have to wrap it up at this point. So this originally started with a proposal that, well, my understanding of how this started was the proposal that Van originally had was that we would cap each commissioner at a certain amount. And then there were some discussions. We should not have had those discussions via email, so we ended up talking about it in board governance. And then President White had asked Shanae and the staff to put together a more detailed, priced out cost of all of the conventions and professional development requests. And that's how we ended up with $39,600 as the total. So I just want to throw that out there, that I'm in agreement that we should cap each commissioner's professional development, which is kind of a standard practice across many, not just boards, but it's a standard practice even among agencies. And then Commissioner Elliott had even suggested that, if one person, if she would give up her money towards one particular commissioner, that would be her choice. And I think we should all have that choice, that if we don't use up our money, that we, give up our funding to another commissioner if we're not going to go or utilize all of it. So that's how I would like to propose moving forward. And I will just say, even if we agreed, originally it was like $26.30 or something to that effect, to increase it to just a $3,000 by 7 of us, that would increase the budget by just $1,000 versus cutting it, but at least it would still give some folks some more funding and flexibility.
So not to pick on you, Commissioner LeBron, but since you and I have begun this conversation, so looking at your thing here, and this is the only way we can do it. According to these estimates, you would spend, your travel would cost $4,000. So what you'd have to say is,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'll give up $1,000 in my travel. I'll pay
Yeah.
$1,000 for my travel.
Either
That's how
I
this-
pay or I cut a conference, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know how everybody else is feeling about that, but that's the reality of where we're at.
I agree with that, too. I
have
think
to-
that we need to, rotate and share and be mindful of our budget.
So, but again, I hate to do it this way, and folks, we debated, we didn't debate where we were to have this conversation. We have to have this conversation in front of everybody. It seems very awkward, and it's difficult to put people in a difficult position, but that's what we have to do. So,
Where
Commissioner Funches?
my position is that we weigh out, because I know we talk about this in terms of dollars and cents, but I want to weigh that out in balance with learning. Because it's not, as someone who travels a lot, I'm not looking to travel a whole lot, but if I'm trying to learn things that are critical to things that I want to do to help move the school in my position as a board member, that I want to, because I'm willing to pull off of some of these things as well, but at the same time, this is about professional development. This is about making us better board members, so we have to weigh the both and create the balance between the two.
I just want to add that again, if we cap each other's amount at $3,000 each, we would still be increasing our costs, but by $1,000, but it's still more than $2,600, which may allow for 2 conferences or 3, depending on which one you attend, and then you have the choice. And I think there's other professional development opportunities, webinars. I'm doing some webinars, reaching out to people from other states, other schools, other districts, Google's your friend. But I just throw that out there because there's, in any agency, people want to have an abundance of professional development opportunities, even our teachers, and they are not afforded that as either. They're only afforded so many professional development opportunities, so.
I'm with you on the solution. I propose something, and you have too, in terms of how we can put our travel budget in alignment. But let me just say, it's been years since I've been a new board member. There is not, and even an old board member, there is nothing like a conference where you learn about best practices, networking. You can't get that off the internet. I got to tell you, some of the things that I learned, some of the things, actual proposals that I brought back to this board were from my participation in the National School Boards Association in CUBE. It's real, and you can't get that from an email. I'm with you on controlling our costs, but this is serious professional development, a real opportunity to learn about things that can make our district better that you can't see on the internet with a webinar. So I just wanted to add that. But again, folks, it's very difficult, but people got to start.
We got to be financially, fiscally responsible,
making
right?
decisions. Liz, I heard you say, where are you at financially on this? You counted up your?
What's interesting here is that I don't know if anyone has gone to Dr. Lee and said, you can take my name off of this conference or that conference, but I noticed that there's some things where people's names should be on here and are not. Dr. Hallmark should be on there for Big Five because she's now the vice chair of Big Five. So she should be on there for the October and the February event.
Did you take your name off, Liz?
I didn't take it. I don't think it ever got on.
Yeah, we just haven't.
I don't think it was added. We'll add it with the new appointment.
So here's the reality, and we've got to continue our meeting because there's some stuff we have to discuss in executive session, and there's some other important activities going on tonight. At this particular point, Beatrice has made some specific budgetary recommendations. I have too with respect to our respective travel. Shanae, you all need to contact Shanae if you have some, she's giving me the eye.
I know, because I feel like, don't we got to vote on this?
Well, no, there's nothing, no, this is not a resolution.
No, it's not a resolution.
There's nothing to vote on. But there will be a log jam, because at a certain point, because here's the reality, you all can just keep on spending people's money and say, oh, I'm going, and Shanae is at a certain point going to say, wait a second, we're way over budget, and she's gonna come to somebody, and there ain't gonna be a board meeting. And I'm preferring that we do it here. But if she comes to me and says, hey, Van, and I'm confronted with, and I understand the awkward silence, she says, hey, Van, we're over budget, what am I supposed to do? I have no choice but to say, hey, we can't do that. So really, you all have to speak up now, because I don't want to do that. But if you don't speak up, I don't have any choice.
Well, Mr. President,
yes, ma'am.
I'd make a motion to amend the budget that we increase that
well,
line
you could do that. You could do
to about 40,000. And I've shared my views. I'm already feeling lost because when I go to those conferences, I'm at those conferences, and there are a lot of things that I learn, and from year to year, there's always something new. And to be able to have access to that new information, as the President talked about, those networking opportunities, and being able to impact public policy on a state and a federal level. We're only talking about an operational budget of $168,000, not like the Deputy Superintendent of Teaching and Learning got $10 million or more. So we're talking about $168,000, and to cut us, you got more, Madam Superintendent, Deputy Superintendent. So she's like, what? So a lot more, right? So to look at reducing that and limit us in terms of our ability to be able to lead this district, I have an issue with that. I think we should increase it. And so I'm putting on the table a motion that we increase it to, we amend the budget to 40 grand for travel.
Commissioner Shepard?
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Elliott.
Is that a second?
Is that second?
Yeah, that'd be a second.
I would not vote for that.
Yeah, me
That's
neither.
too much money.
Okay, so it's been moved and properly seconded. Now we're gonna, all those in favor to have the discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any other comments? Commissioner Shepard said she was supportive of it. I think I heard Commissioner Hallmark say no, she wasn't.
What I'm saying is that I want us to find a middle ground where we balance the expenditure cost with the need for learning, because my thing is that as a new commissioner, I feel I need the opportunity to learn from other folks and hear what's happening and find out, like, the things that I signed up for were around equity and around urban districts and things that I want to know and I want to learn. So I want to figure out how can we have both? You know, that's what I want to get at, is how can we have both? And then I have a question in, like I said, as someone who travels a lot in my other life, I'm wondering, is there a way for us to do this more economically, do the trips, but then do like is there a way to, like, do we do government rate? Do we get government rate on our hotels? Mm-hmm. I mean, is there something about the way that we're booking our travel that incurs this cost? I'm just asking, because again, I'm new.
That's a good question, and in fact, when we started having this conversation, I said to Francine, who is a remarkable person, along with Concur, hey, get me a cheaper hotel in Alaska, and she did, and it was cheaper. But it was okay. It was okay. So we could do that too, but the problem is you can't project that in terms of a budgetary thing. So we could all sort of look at where we're staying and have Francine or whoever try to find us an alternative location. But I have a suggestion, and this is, I'm going to propose that we put off any further discussion. I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss a contractual matter that could have an implication for our decision. And then we will, as we always do, we'll come back out and vote publicly about what we're to do with this.
Wouldn't you need a motion to table the motion already on the
table?
Oh,
yeah, thank you very much. So I would ask for your brief trust. We're going to have this issue. It's going to be resolved tonight. I hope, I would imagine, it has to. But I just need to discuss an unrelated contractual matter which would allow us to, which may allow us to resolve this issue one way or another. So I've made the motion to table.
Second.
Second.
If you want to handle it that way, yes, I'll move to table.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. All right. So that would leave new business. The policy committee, anything you want to tell us about any of this stuff, Commissioner Funches? You don't have to.
No.
Nope. Speakers on other than agenda item. And now I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion. Second.
For a contractual matter. It's been moved and seconded. I also need to go into, I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss a matter related to a particular employee. It's relating to human capital initiatives and tenure. Can I get that motion?
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Funches, seconded by Vice President Powell. All right, we are going into executive session, and we will adjourn from downstairs. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Todd, I don't know if you can play that song for me now.